If it is Friday night, it is strictly sports. Hello, friends. Ridiculously over Anthony Florio filling in tonight for the Hardcore Python Derek Pereira due to major technical issues beyond his control. He's having some major issues with his internet connection tonight, and it's because of that. Derek Pereira will not be joining us here tonight. So, as is customary with that, um, that means ball's in my court tonight. So I'll be running the show here tonight. Um, Uh, as always, I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues, of course, the Cerebral Viper Michael Fletcher and our resident phenom Michael Bullock. Um, we have some major breaking news out of the world of Major League Baseball that we just found out about just a little while ago um, on Twitter, and of course, Michael Fletcher just informed us of this moments ago. Very sad news in the world of Major League Baseball. Chicago Cubs legend Ernie Banks, best known for his signature catchphrase, "Let's play two." Unfortunately, it was announced tonight that he has passed away at the age of 83. We don't have, obviously, no details on his death that you would imagine at this time. Probably won't know that for a while. So, of course, once again, breaking news: Chicago Cubs legend Ernie Banks passed away at the age of 83. And later on in this edition of Strictly Sports, we are going to share our thoughts of Mr. Cub himself, Ernie Banks, and before I get into it, I just want to share this sentiment, and I know you guys will agree with me on this. You got to believe all the Cubs fans around the world are mourning, and I know a certain Cubs fan within our family here. He's got to be probably just as upset about it as all of us, and that is, of course, our good friend and super fan Matt Ward. You got to believe he's probably I don't know if he knows if he got the word yet or if or whatever, but you gotta believe all Cubs fans around the world are definitely mourning. A franchise that hasn't won a World Series in well over 100 years. Of course, made some major moves during the off season. And, who knows? Maybe we could see them do some things this upcoming year, which would be great. I mean, even though we all root for different teams. Even though I'm a Yankee fan and Fletcher, of course, is an Atlanta Braves fan, and Michael Bullock, of course, is our Boston Red Sox super fan. But thing is, we're all in agreement here. We do hope that one day that franchise wins the World Series. I mean, and to win it and dedicate it to the memory of Ernie Banks, that would be awesome. So with that said, Ernie Banks passed away at the age of 83, and of course, the three of us will share our thoughts and memories on that later on in the show because we got a lot to get into here, and unfortunately we can't get into that right now. But we will get into it later on. Trust us, we will, because we got way too much going on here tonight. So with that said, let's dive right in. I'm going to share what we're going to have on this show tonight. Of course, we're going to start it off. We're going to recap the NFC and AFC championship games, share our thoughts on those games, and then of course the big story of the week, obviously, Deflategate with the New England Patriots. We have to get into that. We have a journalistic responsibility here, and we take it very seriously, and we're gonna bring that to you because it would be a major disservice if we don't. So I know a lot of people are sick and tired of it. Hell, I'm sick and tired of it myself, but we have to get into it.
And you know I am too.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it, Mr. Patriot fan. And then on top of that, we got the hiring, of course. The Denver Broncos have themselves a new head man, and it's an old friend by the name of Gary Kubiak. We'll talk about that, and we'll also recap and share our thoughts of the first half of the NHL season. Because remember, tomorrow night, skills competition, and then Sunday, 5 o'clock, NBC Sports Network, the NHL All-Star Game, the Nationwide Arena, Columbus, Ohio. Team Tays versus Team Foligno. We'll get our thoughts on that. Of course, speaking of All-Stars, the NBA All-Stars have been announced. The starters anyway. The starting lineups have been announced for this upcoming All-Star game, which will be on Valentine's Day weekend. How about that? Snuggle with your sweetie and enjoy an NBA All-Star game. How about that? Of course, this year's game, I don't know if you guys know, the world's most famous arena. It's got it. Madison Square Garden. That's where it's going to be for the first time since 1998. We'll share our thoughts on that. And speaking of NBA, our Mr. Fletcher, our Cerebral Viper. He went to a Boston Celtics game with his brother-in-law last Monday night, which is why he wasn't on the Wrestling Forum back on January the 12th. And we asked him to share his experiences with us, and he said he would be more than happy to do so. So we'll get into that. Of course, Max Scherzer signing. What can I say except maybe the most lucrative contract you will ever see in the history of sports with the Washington Nationals. And then we'll share our thoughts on the passing of Bernie Banks. And in the main event, if we have time for all that, it will be our inaugural, for this season anyway, our inaugural NBA Power Rankings. Michael Fletcher, I know you said you took care of yours. I saw your Facebook post last night. You said yours is all set. Mine is all set. I did mine late last night. I don't know if Michael Bullock's is all set, but we'll definitely get into that as well. So with that said, let's dive right in. Just wanted to share the docket with you all, so here you go. First up, conference championships, of course. In my opinion, the most exciting weekend of the NFL postseason, next to the Super Bowl, that is. What can I say except the NFC Championship game, the Green Bay Packers, the Seattle Seahawks, CenturyLink Field in Seattle on Fox. When all was said and done, the Seattle Seahawks, with the most improbable comeback you will ever see in a championship game, knocked off the Green Bay Packers 28-22 in overtime to advance to their second consecutive Super Bowl. Of course, I'm going to start off on this. What else is there to say? I mean, this game went from an absolute dud to a five-star classic right before our very eyes. And of course, you know me, I always like to honor Derek Ferrera's infamous saying, "Chock full of Shakespearean drama, my friends." That's exactly what it had. It had Shakespearean drama and then some. And wow, I mean, what can you say about this game? I mean, got a question for you guys. What is it about these NFC Championship games, huh? I mean, these NFC Championship games over the last, 7, 8 years now, have all been damn near five-star classics, if not five-star classics. I mean, you gotta go all the way back to January of 07 when Matt Ward's Chicago Bears pounded the New Orleans Saints into the ground, 39-14 at Soldier Field, when they went to Super Bowl 41 with Rex Grossman and company. Every game since then, Giants in Green Bay in 08, Philadelphia and Arizona. We just lost Michael Bullock. Wow. Okay. Hopefully we'll get him back in a moment or so. Philly and Arizona the following year, and then how about Minnesota and New Orleans? I mean, that was a classic as well. And then Green Bay and Chicago, that was another fun game. Then the Giants against San Francisco, that was a five-star game. Okay, we got Bullock back in. Giants and San Fran, that was a five-star game in 2012, and then 2013 with I'll get my train of thought in just a moment. San Francisco and Atlanta, that's right. San Francisco beating Atlanta, that was a five-star game. And then, of course, Seattle and San Fran last year, that was a five-star game. And then this year, I mean, like I said, you got to go all the way back to 07 to Chicago. I mean, Russell Wilson, guys. I mean, was it just me or that first half? Russell Wilson had the most piss-poor first half you will ever see of a quarterback. I mean, 3-4 picks in that first half? Craziness. And somehow, some way, still finds a way to win this game and advance to the Super Bowl for a showdown. Of course, we'll get into the other game in just a moment. But wow, I mean, biggest comeback. This is now the biggest comeback in championship game history. The previous comeback, I know Michael Bullock doesn't want to hear it. Of course, it was his Patriots were the victims. January of 2007, when the Indianapolis Colts came back from 15 down to win in that AFC Championship game, the greatest one of ever. This one, of course, the other one, not really so much, but we'll get into that in just a moment. But talking about this game, I mean, getting into this, I mean, just give me one moment here. I'm just gonna, try to get the numbers and the stat lines up for this game, and I mean, Holy wowzers! What a game that was, guys. I mean, you'll never see. I don't know if you'll ever see a better game than that again, um, in our lifetime. But all right, here we go. We got the numbers here. You know me. I like to pull up the numbers. Give you some food for thought here, guys. Seattle, of course. The paid attendance 68,538 at CenturyLink Field. Okay, Seattle outgained Green Bay in the total yards department, 397 to 306. Seattle committed 5 turnovers. Green Bay only had 2. Time of possession was just about even. Green Bay a little bit longer, 32-15 for Green Bay, 31-04 for Seattle. Seattle had the first downs advantage, 20-19. And in the sack department, Russell Wilson was also sacked 5 times. And Aaron Rodgers only sacked once. And of course, Russell Wilson, four interceptions, and then a lost fumble, obviously. So Aaron Rodgers in the game, 19 out of 34, 178 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, quarterback rating of 55.8. Russell Wilson, 14 of 29, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 44.3. Ouch. But John Ryan had the play of the game here, where he faked a punt, and he went 1 for 1, 19 yards and a touchdown pass, and a quarterback rating of 158.3. Unbelievable. But he found Gary Gilliam, 19 yards. That's what happened. And Mason Crosby for Green Bay had 5 field goals in this game. He kept 5 field goals, and then 1 touchdown. Aaron Rodgers with a 13-yard touchdown pass to Randall Cobb, and of course Russell Wilson had a rushing touchdown as well. Marshawn Lynch had a rushing touchdown, and then Russell Wilson 35 yards. Jermaine Kearse the winner with 11:41 to go in overtime. Unreal. Eddie Lacy for Green Bay, 73 yards rushing on 21 carries. Marshawn Lynch, 157 yards, 25 carries, and a touchdown. Russell Wilson had a rushing touchdown, like I mentioned. Jordy Nelson, 71 yards receiving to lead Green Bay. Randall Cobb, 62 yards and a touchdown. Those 2 guys led the way. And then Doug Baldwin, 106 yards. He had the lost fumble, obviously, early in the game. And then Jermaine Kearse with the 35-yard touchdown reception, and Gary Gilliam with the 19-yarder from Ryan, the punter. And, both kickers were perfect, but Mason Crosby, though, I mean, with the 5 field goals, including a long of 48 that sent the game to overtime, and then just absolute craziness. And Green Bay, like I said, Green Bay had 5 sacks of Russell Wilson. Morgan Burnett had 2. Julius Peppers had 1.5. Clay Matthews had 1, and LaTroy Guion had a half a sack, total of 5. And the Seattle D had only 1 sack. That was Cliff Averill. He had the lone sack of Aaron Rodgers. But the point is, Seattle just never gave up. They kept fighting and fighting. And I'll tell you what. I mean, we all remember a year ago. We all remember 1 year ago when we saw that little, I hate to say it, but noggin diva moment with Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman had that noggin diva moment with Aaron Andrews. Damn near scared her straight. When he was, going off about Michael Crabtree. Well, I remember that. But I'm so glad that a year later we didn't have a noggin diva moment with Richard Sherman. We instead got a nice moment, a nice genuine human moment where Russell Wilson broke down. Russell Wilson, I mean, wow. I mean, you saw it. He literally wore his heart on his sleeve right there, guys. That's what he saw. I can't tell you how touching that moment was. That was one of the more moving things you will ever see, seeing Russell Wilson, break down like that with Aaron Andrews there. And I'm glad we didn't have a noggin diva moment like we did last year with Richard Sherman. That little moment that he had. But all in all, Derek did a blog saying that to him, this is the greatest NFL playoff game he's ever seen. I sort of have to beg to differ on that one. I mean, I wouldn't consider it the greatest game of all time, but it definitely does go as one of the all-time great games. There's no doubt about that. I mean, if you want to talk to me about the greatest playoff game, non-Super Bowl, I still think it's that Baltimore and Denver game from a couple of years ago. That game that Baltimore won 38-35 in double overtime. I mean, you want to talk Shakespearean drama and five-star classic. That was it right there. Of course, you can talk about New Orleans and San Fran, that other divisional game from the year before, that five-star shootout. And the Tuck Rule game in Foxborough, the snowstorm. I mean, that AFC Championship game in Indianapolis. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And, of course, all those great NFC title games that I just mentioned. I mean, but all in all, I mean, is it one of the greatest games of all time? Absolutely. But is it the greatest of all time? Sorry, Derek, I got to disagree with you on that. I'm not going to consider it the greatest of all time. But what Seattle did, though, that was extraordinary. And credit to those guys for hanging in there, and they got it done. And now for the first time in a decade, we have a team that has a chance to successfully defend their Super Bowl championship in the Seattle Seahawks. And credit to Pete Carroll and his staff. A job well done, to say the very least. I mean, they deserve. I mean, of course, when I throw it to you guys, of course, I'm gonna ask the age-old question, like we see it on all our favorite sports shows, like Around the Horn and PTI and all them. The classic question: did Seattle win this game, or did Green Bay lose it? Simple as that. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I want to say Seattle won, but I think Green Bay lost it. That's what I think. I mean, they had this thing well in hand. I mean, there was an onside kick in there, for God's sakes. And Brandon Bostic, you had one job, man. You had one job. All you had to do was somehow corral that onside kick. You cradle that thing up. We wouldn't be talking about Seattle going back to the Super Bowl. We'd be talking about you guys going to the Super Bowl instead. And then what about that two-point conversion after the Lynch touchdown? What about that? I mean, Russell Wilson lobbed that thing. I thought for sure that was going to be incomplete. But somehow Luke Wilson, not the actor, but the tight end, Luke Wilson, he somehow, some way corralled it, sent the game to OT, and then, Mason Crosby had a 48-yard field goal. I mean, think about it. Green Bay had two little jobs that Green Bay had to do. Bostic had to corral the onside, and also the two-point conversion try. I mean, Clinton Dix, who had himself a game on the defensive side of the ball. He had two picks. He had two of those 4 interceptions by Russell Wilson. The product out of Alabama, and one of my favorite names in sports today. I mean, he could have made a play. He had an easy play on that, and somehow he ended up losing out. I mean, all they had to do was corral the onside kick, and Clinton Dix also had to find a way to knock that thing down. That lobbed two-point conversion try. Green Bay does one or both of those jobs, it's Green Bay in the Super Bowl, not Seattle. But Green Bay lost this game. They choked it away. They had it well in hand, and they just got cute at the end. And if you get cute, you're gonna lose. It's not just when you lose, you're cool, you lose the game. If you get cute and you get fancy late in the game, you play to win the game, like Herman Edwards always said. But nonetheless, Shakespearean drama indeed. Unbelievable NFC Championship game, one that will be remembered, no doubt about it, but not the greatest of all time. I think Derek went a little too far, went a little overboard on that, with all due respect, of course. But nonetheless, hell of a game, very enjoyable. I mean, yeah, it was a snoozer for most of it, but once Seattle started making that rally, hell yeah, you definitely woke up. So congrats to Seattle, back to the Super Bowl for you guys, a chance to defend your title. Rarity. First time in over a decade we've seen this. So congrats to Pete Carroll and company. And now we have a chance for back-to-back titles for the first time since the 03-04 Patriots. So that's basically my thoughts. I pretty much touched on everything. So with that said, I'm going to throw it up now to my partner in crime in the Yes Movement and our resident phenom, the one and only Michael Bullock. Simple question, Michael Bullock. Well, two simple questions. Your thoughts on the game, 1, and 2, Did Green Bay lose it? Did Green Bay lose this game, or did Seattle really win?
Well, what? Wow, that's tough to answer when it comes to the second one. I mean, yeah, because you have Green Bay fans saying, I mean, they lost it. Well, Seattle fans are saying that they won it. Yeah, well, first off, hello friends. This is the Phenom and the Vice President of the Rhode Island chapter of the Yes Movement, Mike Bullock here for another edition of Strictly Sports, and delighted to be here as always. Yeah, man, I mean, that was one heck of an NFC championship game. I mean, what can you say? I mean, we basically saw everything in this game. As a as a matter of fact, we saw a lot of turnovers in this game. I mean, as a matter of fact, 7 turnovers total in this game. Two of them by Green Bay, 5 of them by Seattle. Yeah, and as I get into the stats here, um, for Aaron Rodgers, 19 of 30. Well, for the quarterbacks on both sides, Aaron Rodgers was 19 of 34 for 170 yards and a touchdown, but he got picked off twice. And then Russell Wilson, 14 of 29, 209 yards. He threw a touchdown, but got picked off 4 times. And yeah, this was. We saw a lot of turnover. And of course, it all started off with. Excuse me. I'm trying to. Yeah, it all started off with a field goal by Mason Crosby to take a 3-0 lead early in the first, and then Mason Crosby with another field goal to make it 6-0, and then at the end of the first quarter, Randall Cobb catches a 13-yard touchdown pass to make it 13-0, and you're thinking, oh boy, this is not looking good for Seattle. And then Mason Crosby hits another field goal to make it 16-0. And then that third quarter, one of the craziest plays that I've seen in a long time. You're thinking Stephen Hauschka was going to basically go for a field goal, and then all of a sudden he fakes it, throws it to Garrett Gilliam, and makes it 16-7. And believe me when I say this, boys, I think that was the turning point of the game right there. That was the turning point. Yeah, you were thinking like, yep, Green Bay was going to be all over them, but nope, that touchdown I think was the turning point. And then Mason Crosby makes another field goal, and then it was like they take a 19-7 lead, and then Wilson gets picked off with about just over 5 minutes left in the game. And you're thinking, yeah, this is not going to be good for Seattle, and they get the ball back. Russell Wilson goes in for a 1-yard score to make it 19-14, and then on an onside kick, you figure, yeah, they have to just basically, basically it was for Brandon Bostic to fall on it, and that was pretty much going to be it, but he couldn't gather it. Bounced right off his mask. His face mask. And Chris Matthews basically recovered it at the 50, and then Marshawn Lynch goes beast mode, a 24-yard touchdown run, and then a 2-point conversion to Luke Wilson to make it a 22-19 Seattle lead. And then Mason Crosby makes a field goal near the end of the fourth quarter to force overtime. And then, of course, you go to overtime, and then Russell Wilson with the biggest touchdown pass of his career, a 35-yarder to Jermaine Kearse, who 4 times tried to throw to him, and he got picked off 4 times. He goes back to him, gets the touchdown, The crowd goes crazy. The players go nuts. They're heading back to the Super Bowl for the second consecutive year. One of the craziest NFC title games I have seen in a while. So, yeah, so congratulations to Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks off to another Super Bowl. So, man, I don't know what else there is to say except, Michael Fletcher, I just got one question for you. How you going to follow that?
I'm gonna try to make it short, sweet, and straight to the point, and try not to waste too much of the people's time here tonight. But I will say this: it was a great NFC title game, probably one of the greatest NFC title games I've ever seen in recent years. Um, the excitement level was there, the great plays were there, but let's be real honest, gentlemen. Yes, Seattle won it and they deserve to win it and everything else, but let's be realistic. They were getting manhandled in the first half. I mean, they were jumped out trailing. Russell Wilson had four INTs in the first half alone. Green Bay let him off the hook. Just to say it, plain and simple. I mean, Mike McCarthy's play calling, especially down the stretch, was more than suspect. It was almost abysmal in my eyes. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he was only playing on one leg, but the way that they were playing, they should have won that game. There was a lot of bad coaching decisions by Green Bay, to say the very least. And for me, Green Bay lost this game. They blew the NFC Championship, no doubt about it. Now Aaron Rodgers is saying, "Well, this is the most toughest loss, and I'm never gonna forget that loss." Good. I hope you don't, because that's gonna be your motivation for next year to rewrite the wrong that happened here tonight, on last Sunday. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Seattle earned it. You know, they had the heart of a champion, and they came back. They won it. They're the NFC champions. So going back to the Super Bowl, my hat's off to them, and cannot wait to see them 1 week from Sunday as they try to become a dynasty and become the first back-to-back champions in over 10 years. And the team that they're going up against, well, we're about to talk about them right now in more than one waves. So with that said, Anthony, it's yours.
All right. So with that said, we're going to move on now to the AFC Championship game, which unfortunately was not so much of a five-star classic. An absolute dud of a game from start to finish. It was the Indianapolis Colts. It was the New England Patriots. It was at Gillette Stadium. And at the end of the night, it was the New England Patriots that defeated the Indianapolis Colts 45-7, the second most lopsided championship game in the history of the AFC Championship game, only behind the 48-point beatdown my Buffalo Bills put on the then Los Angeles Raiders when they beat them 51-3 in the AFC Championship game in Buffalo that sent the Bills to their first ever Super Bowl. I mean, what a day that was. I mean, that's a day I'll always remember. Seeing my team, win their first conference title and go to the Super Bowl. I mean, that was a mark out moment for me. But then again, I was only 7 years old at the time. But yeah, even 7-year-olds can mark out. That's all I can say on that. But nonetheless, yeah, it's the second biggest AFC beatdown of all time. It's the third most all time. The actual number two was, of course, the 41-0 beatdown by the New York Giants on the Minnesota Vikings in January of 2001. So, but anyways, that was it. 45-7, New England won it. So with that said, Michael Bullock, you New England Patriots super fan, you've been waiting 3 long years for this. You and Derek Ferrera have both been waiting 3 long years since that 5-star game against the Baltimore Ravens when Cundiff missed that chip shot field goal that he should have made. That would have sent the game into overtime. Then who knows how that one would have ended. But the point is, my friend, your Patriots are going back to the Super Bowl. First time in 3 years, 8th AFC Championship overall. Yes, there was some controversy. We'll get into that in just a moment. But with that said, Michael Bullock, Phenom, Mr. Patriot superfan, your thoughts on this. And I think I hear I think I hear some I think I hear a certain three-letter word that's going to be coming our way in just a matter of moments. A certain movement's going to be taking center stage, if I do say so myself. And let me tell you, before you do that, Bullet, I swear to God, I could hear you and Derek Ferreira doing this from a mile away, and I know Michael Fletcher deep down was saying it too. So with that said, Michael Bullock, your thoughts on the game? Oh, hell with it. Just go nuts, man. Your team just went to the Super Bowl, for God's sakes, man.
Yes, 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 yes. 3 long years, and all I can say is the Patriots are heading back to the Super Bowl for the first time in 3 years since Super Bowl 46, and in one of the most lopsided AFC Championship games that I have ever seen in a long time. And yeah, and I mean, yeah, yeah. Let me go through the through it all. Of course, and of course, excuse me. Sorry about. Yeah, I'm just trying to. Yeah, and of course, it all started off with Garrett Blount with a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 7-0 early, and then of course Tom Brady to the fullback James Devlin uh, with a 1-yard touchdown pass and making it 14-0. And then of course in that second quarter, um, a 1-yard touchdown run from Zerlon Tipton of the Colts to make it 14-7, and then a field goal from Steven Gostkowski to make it 17-7 at halftime. And you were thinking, maybe this could be interesting. But the second half, it was a whole different story. Tom Brady with a 16-yard touchdown pass to Nate Soldier, the tackle for the New England Patriots. I mean, the place I'm sure was going bonkers when that happened, and I was excited too because I think it was about 3 years ago when I went to training camp. Me and my sister had our picture taken with Nate Soldier, and who would have thought that this guy would get a touchdown in the AFC Championship game? That was definitely something there. And then, of course, a 5-yard touchdown pass to Gronk to make it 31-7. And then a 13-yard touchdown run by LeGarrette Blount to make it 38-7. And then a 2-yard touchdown run by Blount to make it 45-7. And what can I say? Of course, Tom Brady, 23 of 35, 226 yards with 3 touchdowns, and he got picked off one time. Andrew Luck, 12 of 33 for 126 yards and 2 picks. And of course, LeGarrette Blount, 30 carries, 148 yards with 3 touchdowns. I mean, this was after in the divisional round where they had no running game. And LeGarrette Blount, well, let's say he channeled his inner Marshawn Lynch and went beast mode on the on the Colts, and the New England defense, they basically held down T.Y. Hilton and held him to only 1 catch for 36 yards. And yeah, and Julian Edelman had 9 catches for 98 yards. Rob Gronkowski had only 3 catches for 28 yards, but he did have that touchdown. Of course, a touchdown by Soldier. And the defense played a good game. Jamie Collins with 4 tackles and an interception. Darrelle Revis had an interception as well. 3 tackles by Ninkovich and Dante Hightower, and of course Steven Gostkowski. Of course, like I said, had a field goal, and man, this was never even close the whole time. And of course, the New England Patriots, they're going to be appearing in their 8th Super Bowl overall, which ties, of course, the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers for the most all time. But they will be making their 6th appearance. Well, Tom Brady will be starting his 6th Super Bowl. Now, of course, a new NFL record surpassing John Elway, and he also picked up his 20th career postseason win, which extends his NFL record. Bill Belichick with his 21st career postseason win, and surpassing Tom Landry, and now has the most postseason wins in NFL history. And for Robert Kraft, this is his 23rd career postseason win, which is now 4th most all time by an owner. So, like I said, 8th Super Bowl appearance overall, 7th under the ownership of Bob Kraft, and 6th overall under the Brady Belichick regime. So, but of course, like I said, well, first off, I can say I did pick up my my conference championship T-shirt and hat. Of course, if I had a camera, I could show it to you, but of course I don't. But I can tell you I do have it. But of course, this conference championship for the Patriots was not without controversy. We'll definitely get into that when we after we get Fletcher and Florio's thoughts on the game. So, with that being said, congratulations to Bob Kraft and the New England Patriots on to another Super Bowl. So, and they'll try to win their first one since, of course, the 2004 season. Of course, that was their last Super Bowl title. So, yes, so now it's Patriots Seahawks, Super Bowl 49. It's all set. So, with that being said, Fletcher, your thoughts?
Yeah, normally in the first half it was actually very competitive for the most part. New England jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Indy got one back, and then a good field goal by Steven Gostkowski, 17-7. But just like the Patriots have done all year long, the second half was when they really turned up the heat. They got into Andrew Luck, made him flustered, frustrated. 2 INTs that one almost got ran back all the way for a touchdown. It was basically New England at that point. The running game was basically on point. Brady looked tremendous as usual, and New England wins the AFC Championship. They go back to the Super Bowl again, and yet there was some controversy. We will get into that in a little bit, but I mean, at the end of the day, New England proved why they were the best team in the AFC. Um, there was some people that was wishing that it was actually Denver and not Indy, but there was some people that really wanted it to see Indianapolis because for Patriot fans it was a little more of an easier road. You want to have the most easiest road to the Super Bowl regardless of what the game would be or what the team would have been and this and that. But I know a lot of people, especially that I talked to at the 2184 crew. I'll be real honest with you. A lot of them are really nervous about that. It's Seattle. Quite a few people wanted it to see Green Bay in the Super Bowl, not Seattle. But that remains to be seen. We'll get into that in a little bit. We might even get into that next week when we have our Super Bowl preview show. But with that said, Anthony, I give it to you.
Well, needless to say, I mean, say for example, if Michael Fletcher and I were the Jim Nantz and Phil Simms, I mean, this game would be our worst nightmare because when it comes to commentators' worst nightmares, it's calling blowout. I mean, it's tough for our commentators to have to get through blowout, whether it's a regular season game, especially a postseason game. But we try to find a way to make it work, and that's exactly what we did. So, yeah, let's get into this. Of course, paid attendance at Gillette Stadium, 68,756. Of course, first downs, New England 28, Indianapolis 17. Total yards, New England 397, Indianapolis 209. Turnovers, Indianapolis committed 3, New England committed 1. Indianapolis was not sacked, and New England was only sacked once. Brady was sacked once. New England held the ball for 37 minutes and 49 seconds. The Colts held it for 22 minutes and 11 seconds. Of course, Andrew Luck, 12 out of 33, 126 yards, 2 interceptions, no TDs. Quarterback rating, 23. That's it. Tom Brady, 23 of 35, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Quarterback rating, 100.4. Yeah. Daniel Herron was the leading rusher, 51 yards. Of course, LeGarrette Blount. What can you say? I mean, 148 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, look what this guy's done in the 2 games, the 2 postseason games he's had against the Indianapolis Colts, the divisional game last year and this AFC Championship game here. 314 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns. Unreal. That's all I can say on that. T.Y. Hilton only had 36 yards to lead the receiving corps. Julian Edelman, 9 catches, 98 yards. Rob Gronkowski had a receiving touchdown as well, 28 yards. Adam Vinatieri missed a field goal. Oh my goodness, he did not do it again. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, you've always heard, Fletch has always heard me say when it comes to every time Adam Vinatieri would make a field goal, I would always say, oh my goodness, he's done it again. But in this case, he didn't do it again. He shanked it. Oh, did he shank it, man. He shanked that thing halfway to Boston. That's all I can say on that. I mean, my goodness. But Gostkowski had an easier night kicking the ball. He was perfect. 6 PATs and a field goal. There was only 1 sack, like I said. It was Corey Redding who had the lone sack of Tom Brady. And, of course, the Pats had no sacks. But then again, they didn't need them. So, just shows you the New England Patriots. I mean, you know, they came off 2 demoralizing losses. Of course, 2 years ago, they lose at home to the Baltimore Ravens. And then last year, they lose in Denver against the Broncos. And Michael Fletcher made a great point. I wanted to see the Denver Broncos in this AFC Championship game because I felt that had the chance to be more of a 5-star classic. When Indy got there, this is exactly what I was worried about. I was worried that it was going to be a not-so-competitive game because New England, let's face it, folks, New England has owned Indy. They have owned them since Andrew Luck came into the league. I mean, New England's won by 31. They've won by, I believe, 21. And then they won by 22 on that Sunday night. And then, of course, the 38. I mean, New England's won by an average of damn near 30 points in these last 4 games against them. That's dominance. Major dominance by this New England Patriot team. 8th AFC Championship, on to another Super Bowl. But, of course, now, unfortunately, our first major hard-time story of 2015. Hopefully it'll be the first of few, if I do say so myself, but with our luck, that's not going to happen. There's probably going to be a hell of a lot more of this nonsense in the near future. But we got Deflategate here. Of course, the reports came out, of course, that the Patriots had 11 of 12 underinflated balls, footballs, that is, and major controversy. I mean, it's been going on all week long. But then again, what's this NFL season been without controversy? I mean, all this nonsense, and for point purposes, I'm only going to mention these names, and this will be the last time I swear I mention these names again. I mean, it all started with Ray Rice, then it was Ray McDonald, then it was McDonald, and then of course it was Greg Hardy, Adrian Peterson, wife beaters, child abusers, and then of course with this large cloud hanging over us. And Derek Ferrera just issued a very major statement. He posted this on his Facebook, and I asked him, with his permission, of course, because that's how I like to do things. I wanted to share his statement before I throw it to you guys. Derek Ferrera just shared this statement. Oh, Derek Ferrera says his internet is up and running and his cordless phone was used, and okay. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I guess Derek's okay now. So with that said, I'm just going to I'm just going to read his statement because that's exactly what he said I could do. So he shared this statement about it, and I quote, "So after days of reading, watching, and listening to this Deflategate stuff, here is my theory, and I am pretty adamant about this being the most plausible explanation. I believe that Brady prefers his footballs on the softer side, but does not actually check the PSI of the balls. He simply goes by feel. I believe that his equipment guys know this and prepare the balls accordingly. I believe that they gave the balls Brady likes to the refs 2 hours and 15 minutes before kickoff for inspection. I believe that the refs looked at the balls, held the footballs, and marked them for use in the game. I do not believe that they checked the balls with a pressure gauge before the game. The officials won't admit this because it would make them look bad, and the NFL won't either because it would make them look bad. I believe that the balls were not tampered with by anyone from the time they were checked 2 hours 15 minutes before the game up to kickoff. I believe that they were tested with a pressure gauge at halftime, only after the Colts requested that they be checked. I believe Belichick told the truth yesterday. I believe Brady did too, despite looking extremely uncomfortable at the podium. What I believe Brady did not tell us is that he likes a softer football, and in all likelihood knows that some of them are under the minimum requirements when handed to the officials. And just like a hockey player who uses a stick that has slightly too much curve to the blade, sometimes you get away with it, and sometimes you don't. The NFL fine for this is $15,000. If the Pats are guilty of it, fine the $15,000 and be done with it. This is another example of the NFL not having its act together, and therefore they will likely come out with no finding when their allegedly thorough investigation is finished. They do not want to point the finger of blame at their refs for screwing up or themselves for dropping the proverbial underinflated ball. Therefore, they will come out with no finding, leading everyone to speculate as to exactly what happened. If that happens, it will be the Patriots who will be considered guilty by most in the court of public opinion. Shame on the NFL. They could have and should have already come to a finding in this case. Instead, they make the Patriots look like the bad guys as they are preparing for their biggest game of the year and the NFL showcase, the Super Bowl. One question to the NFL. Is there any type of surveillance video at Gillette Stadium of the refs checking the balls prior to the game? If so, let's see it. If we can see that and see that the balls were properly checked for PSI, then we can definitively say that someone tampered with the balls. Absent that, it's a he said, she said situation, and quite honestly, I think the NFL is the only one lying here, just as they did in the handling of the Ray Rice case. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Roger Goodell. That the words from our own hardcore pipe bomb.
Moly.
Those words coming from our own hardcore pipe bomb, Derek Ferrer. And quite frankly, I have nothing left to say here except bravo, Derek Ferrer. Bravo. You're absolutely right. That's all there is to say about
I disagree.
But I'll share that in just a moment. But with that said, Michael Fletcher, I know you've been very adamant about this whole thing. We talked about this, obviously, and I know you're ready to probably go on a Cerebral Viper rant. So with that said, I'm letting you out of your cage. Let it rip.
Here's the problem I have with that comment, and don't get me wrong, I love Derek Ferreira, but he's absolutely wrong. Because of the fact that the New England Patriots have to provide the footballs. This was not from the NFL, so the NFL has no bearing whatsoever about what the PSI or all that stuff. Now, as far as the 2 hours and 15 minutes rules goes, I absolutely agree with everything that he said. But here's the note, and here's the thing that's really making things really uncomfortable. It's that supposedly the balls were deflated in the first half of the game. And even one of the NFL and one other thing that was also brought up was that the one of the players from the Indianapolis Colts felt something that seemed a little off with the football when he intercepted it from Tom Brady. Not only that, but here's one thing that was completely lost in the shuffle and lost in all of this muckety-muck, is that the Baltimore Ravens actually filed a grievance with the National Football League saying that the New England Patriots might have had deflated footballs in the kicking game and warned the Indianapolis Colts before the game was played to have the balls checked prior to the start of the AFC Championship. And Indy knew about New England's track record of the deflated footballs because of the fact that Indy filed an grievance with the NFL earlier in the year because of deflated footballs. So here's the thing. Yes, they're going to be guilty by the court of public opinion because of the fact that, well, what happened? New England Patriots were caught cheating once before. Now, this is not going to be one thing or another thing because back in the day we had Spygate and there was video evidence that pretty much said that the whole 9 yards and everything else. Now Bill Belichick and Tom Brady both were like, that they wouldn't go against the rules or anything else like this or blah 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 and yada yada yada. And Belichick's like, well, I have no knowledge about the balls being deflated or anything else. I'm sorry, I have to call Bill Belichick out. As the head coach of the New England Patriots, you're responsible for your own equipment, you're responsible for managing the team and everything else. As an organization, it comes to you more than anything else about the situation and everything else. If you had no knowledge that your own footballs were not, well, I should say, not in its proper context, then that comes back to you and your organization. And if you really listen to the press conferences, I'll say this. It sounded like to me that Bill Belichick threw Tom Brady under the bus. And you have to truly watch it to hear what they said. Now, Brady didn't help himself in any situation. To me, now, I'm not the biggest New England Patriot fan, and I'll admit that. But I'm a guy who respects the integrity of the game. And I'm sorry, Anthony, Derek Ferreira might make his soliloquy, and that was a great soliloquy, but at the end of the day, you can't really defend anything that he says about that they had no knowledge about it, because somebody has to. If it's an equipment manager, to the ball boys, to the quarterback, because the quarterback are the ones that are supposed to have it. If it doesn't feel right to you, if it feels a little off, there's a notice between pressure of a full football and something that's a little deflated. Trust me, I work at Walmart, and sometimes, when we're zoning our, the sporting goods area, is I have to get hands-on with some actual footballs, and some of them are deflated. They're not, pure, perfection when they're first come. They lose, it could be from moisture, traction, whatever, but some of the balls don't feel, firm or, in its true size. Now, they're claiming, or the NFL is stating, that the footballs were about 10 psi. The football or the NFL regulation is that they need to be 12 to 13 and a half. 12 and a half to 13 and a half psi to the pressure of the football. What the hell happened to about 2 of those, about 2 inches of that? Now, of course, Brady's gonna duck the tail and run, but the thing is that we talk about the records, we talk about everything else, but this isn't the New England Patriots we're talking. And the last time I remember, they've been notorious for cutting corners and doing things that maybe looks a little fishy or suspicious, but what happens? The NFL always turns a blind eye because it's the New England Patriots. And a lot of the rest of the league are piling on because of the fact that, it is the Patriots. So what's the punishment going to be? Either there's going to be either a fine or New England's going to lose to draft picks. And that's it. The last time I remember when supposed bounty gate happened, what happened there? A whole bunch of players got suspended. Sean Payton got suspended for 1 full year, if you remember, and the general manager and actually the defensive coordinator was suspended, obviously got thrown off the team, and more than anything else, a whole bunch of their players got suspended. Now, here's the thing. If Bill Belichick or Tom Brady knowingly knew about the rules, knew about this about the balls being deflated, covered up and lied, are you kidding me? The NFL, the fans would be barking for New England to have Brady and Belichick suspended immediately. No with no recourse and no hesitation. At the end of the day, yeah, you might say small, take this, with the, whatever's whatever, but damn it to hell, I want consequences. I want a punishment. And the last thing I heard was that the NFL was going to turn a blind eye and they were going to do something after the Super Bowl. Well, what the hell, NFL? If you got all this evidence going around, you're talking to 40 people, and you're not going to do nothing about it, let's just say the New England Patriots are in the back pockets of the NFL. And if anybody dares to challenge me about that, then come right at it and bring your evidence, bring your stuff to me. Because right now, the way it looks and the way it sounds, the Patriots know more than what they're letting on. And once again, the NFL will bow down to the New England Patriots and let them get away with goddamn what? Because why? Because the Patriots are best for business, just like the Dallas Cowboys. So you know what, Patriot fans? You might be barking off saying, "Oh, we're getting, the league's coming after us because we did nothing wrong." Give me a freaking break. Kiss my rear end, and you can kiss my rear end that I say Seattle wins the Super Bowl, and I hope they kick your ass. With that said, Michael Bullock, it's yours.
I think you.
Actually, it's Anthony Florio's turn.
Yes, it is, and oh man.
Damn, Fletch, tell us how you really feel, man. Holy crap, man.
Cerebral Viper. That's your Cerebral Viper.
I mean, when the Cerebral Viper gets going, he really gets going.
Oh yeah, that was a little bit of Triple H. That was a little bit of Randy Orton. I mean, my goodness. I think that was more like Triple H from Monday night after the little Sting moment there.
You said the Viper was unleashed. You've been warned.
Oh yeah, we were warned, and yeah, be forewarned. It's unfortunate that this had to happen. I mean, this has been a season full of controversy. From Ray Rice to Ray McDonald to Greg Hardy to Adrian Peterson, and then we had 3 wife beaters, a child abuser, and now we got a team full of dirty, rotten cheaters. Apparently, channeling their inner Eddie Guerrero, lying and cheating and stealing. That's all there is to say about it. And that's pretty much what it is. I mean, it's a damn shame that this had to happen. And, I really honestly don't know what to say. I mean, my goodness. I mean, with Derek's Facebook statement and Michael Fletch's Cerebral Viper rant, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to follow this. I mean, I really don't know what to believe, to be honest with you. I mean, Let me tell you this. Let me tell you like this. If this was the Tennessee Titans or the Oakland Raiders or the Jacksonville Jaguars doing this, do you think we'd be talking about this right now? No. Why are we talking about this? Because it's the New England. That's why. Spygate, we all know that. We all know what happened with that. And they got the book thrown at them. I mean, major fines, lost their draft picks, and everything else. You've heard me go on these, major rants in the past about how, if I was the commissioner, any wrongdoing would be severely punished for it. I mean, I've thought long and hard about this. If I was the commissioner, I mean, Michael Fletcher makes a great point about Sean Payton. We all remember Sean Payton was, he got held accountable for Bountygate, and he got the book thrown at him. He got suspended for a year. Now, with this, I mean, if all of this is proven to be, a farce, and if this is proven to be, guilty and whatnot, then what should happen is Belichick should be held accountable. I 100% agree. I mean, he should get a suspension. He should get a lengthy suspension, if not for the same amount of suspension that Sean Payton got. I mean, ignorance is no excuse. And that's exactly what it is. It was major ignorance on his part. I mean, I want to believe him, but at the same time, I don't. I really don't know what to make of it. And it's just a damn shame. And we're just a week or so away from the biggest game of the year. And we're going to have this dark cloud hanging all over us. And we had a little chat, the three of us did, before the show started. And we talked about how Tuesday. Now, when it comes to Super Bowl week, we know what the most anticipated event of Super Bowl week is. And it comes this Tuesday. And it's my favorite part of the week, personally, from my end. And you know what that day is, fellas? Media Day. Because because on Media Day, not only is it because, of what the players have to say and whatnot, and all the questions and whatnot about the game and whatnot, but we get our first look inside the stadium. And we get our first look at the field for Super Bowl 49. But the thing is, I said this to you guys before the show started, this is going to be the most anticipated Media Day in the history of Media Day. When it comes to the New England Patriots, do you think any of the questions are going to be about the game and strategy and whatnot of that? No. I guarantee you, every question that the media asks all New England Patriots members is going to be all about deflation. Not one question is going to be asked about the game. I guarantee you, fellas. Not one question is going to be asked about the game. If I hear one question asked about the game, I will be shocked more than anything else. Maybe they will. Maybe there probably will be some game questions. I can understand. There probably will be those. I'm sure there will be. But what I mean to say is the majority of the questioning is not going to be about the game and the strategy and whatnot and how the practices and all that are. No. I guarantee you it's going to be all about deflation. And that's a low-down, dirty shame. To have this dark cloud and a season full of controversy hanging over the biggest game of the year. I mean, normally at this time, we'd be excited. We'd be jacked up for this game. And I'll tell you what, we're definitely gonna be jacked up next Friday night when we do our big Super Bowl preview show, which is our first huge Strictly Sports show of this year. I mean, I can't wait for that show. I'll be honest with you. But how can we get excited over it, knowing that this dark cloud of dark clouds is going to be hanging over us for God knows how long? And it just really saddens me. It really does. I mean, haven't we had enough controversy this year? I mean, not just because of the wife beaters and the child abuser, no. This postseason's been full of controversy. The Detroit-Dallas game, the pass interference call that wasn't. Dallas and Green Bay, the catch that wasn't. And now this? When is the controversy going to end? I'll tell you when it's going to end. It's never going to end. The only way it's going to end is when hell freezes over. And it's never going to end. I was Commissioner Roger Goodell right now, I'd be shaking because I know the general public would be after my ass. You think if I was the commissioner right now, if I was running that shit, do you think any of this nonsense would be going on right now? Absolutely not. Because if I was the commissioner, I want to lead. I want all my teams and all my players to play the game the way it should be played, with honor, integrity, and respect. No controversy, no BS referee calls that will always determine the outcome of the game. No. If anything like that happens, I'd have those refs fired, and I would fire their asses a long time ago. I want competent individuals who can handle the simple things. Of course, obviously we had every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there who friggin' obviously blew this whole thing. And that's why we have to put up with this nonsense. Biggest game of the year, and we're not talking about the game itself. No, we're not talking about the game. And excuse me, I'm going to channel my inner Allen Iverson here. We ain't talking about the game. We're talking about Deflategate. Really? Deflategate? We got to talk about this instead of the game itself? Not the game. We're not talking about the game itself. We're talking about Deflategate. We're talking about deflated footballs, for God's sake. Oh, my gosh. But if I was running this thing, you know what I would have done about this? If New England was found to be guilty, I know this may sound ludicrous, but I've always believed in leadership by example. Leadership by example. That's what I believe in. And also, I've always said it like this. If you're going to hit me in the mouth, I'm going to hit you right back. That's all there is to it. And what I'm going to do, what I would have done, like I said, if you're going to hit me in the mouth, if you're going to hit me in my mouth, and you're going to hit the league in my mouth, the biggest league in the world in the mouth, well, you leave me no choice but to retaliate. And Michael Fletcher, you want to talk about a cerebral viper rant? Well, here comes a ridiculously over one. If it was me, I would demand that a rematch of this game be played at the earliest possible date. And I, as the commissioner, you know what I would have done? I would have flown right directly to Gillette Stadium, and I would have been on the sidelines myself to ensure that all the footballs were not deflated. Not one was deflated. I would check with the equipment managers and everything else, and I would be right there on the sidelines to ensure not only that those balls were properly inflated or whatever, but I would also be on the sidelines to ensure a swift, fair, and decisive outcome. That's what I would do.
You're sounding a little bit like Jack Tunney, like what he did with that, what happened after Survivor Series 1991 with the Undertaker Hulk Hogan match.
You damn right, Michael. That's exactly what I'm doing. That was what Jack Tunney did at that time. I know it was storyline and whatnot, but that was leadership by example, and I strongly believe in leadership by example, and that's also a hit you in the mouth right there, folks. If it was me, I would wipe this outcome clean, and I would demand that a rematch be played at the earliest possible date. With properly inflated footballs, I would be there in person to oversee every single football, not one was deflated, and I would be there on the sidelines. And I would talk to both coaches, and I would talk to all the players, and make sure. And I would also have a stern talk with the referees too, to make sure that this game be played with the utmost honor, the utmost integrity, and the utmost respect. No controversy, no BS whatsoever. I want a swift and decisive outcome. That's all I want, and a fair outcome as well. You give me that. Then regardless of the outcome, then and only then, that team deserves to go to the Super Bowl. I know it may not be a popular decision, but you know what? I don't care. Because I'm all about honesty, I'm all about fair play, and I'm all about, you know, playing by the rules. I'm not a rule breaker. I know there are a lot of people out there who are. And if you are, well, you're not going to be in my league. That's for goddamn sure. So, whether you like it or not, that's what I would have done. But of course, the NFL's not going to do that because they don't have the balls to do it. Let's not kid ourselves. And of course, Goodell, well, he lost his balls a long damn time ago. Let's not kid ourselves. And of course,
Wow! Holy
yeah.
crap, man!
And of course, let me tell you something. Let me tell you. Of course, with everything that Roger Goodell has done this year, his lack of leadership and everything else. I mean, the whole rice. I mean, all those child abusers. I mean, wife beaters. Excuse me, the wife beaters and child abusers. The controversial calls that have plagued this postseason. The most controversy-ridden season in NFL history, and it happened under Roger Goodell's leadership because of the fact that he lost his balls, and of course he refused to put the big boy pants on. Well, if it was me, I got the balls. I got the big boy pants on, big boy. That's all I'm going to say about it. So with that said, to put it all to bed here, Deflategate, gonna put some butts in the seats. No, ain't gonna put no butts in the seats. That's all there is to say about that. So apparently, Roger Goodell was channeling his inner Eric Bischoff because he knows and he strongly feels when it comes to Roger Goodell. Do you know what he thinks is best for business? Controversy and scandal and slander. That's what he feels is best for business. And channeling his inner Eric Bischoff, controversy creates cash. Not on my watch, it doesn't. Fair play, respect, and honoring of the rules. That's what creates cash. Not controversy, not slander. And that's all there is to say about it. So to Roger Goodell, I mean, and for all of this, and for having to make us good people have to put up with this nonsense for this past week, you put the more and more on, you put the whipped cream on the salad. All I can say is, well, hope you're happy because you just played this Super Bowl, plain and simple. Hope you're happy. Hope you're happy up there, Suits. Hope you're breaking out the goddamn balloons and party hats and the champagne and whatnot. Because to let this happen just before your biggest game of the year, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Every one of you, from Roger Goodell to everybody else, to allow this to happen. You need to be held accountable. You want to hit us in the mouth? Well, guess what? I'm hitting you right back. Plain and simple.
You're targeting the wrong person. You're targeting the wrong thing. If you really want to hit them in the mouth, you should be hitting the Patriots in the mouth, not the NFL, because they're not responsible for the footballs. Remember, the Patriots were.
I think he's referring to all the other stuff, not this one.
No,
Right.
I understand,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
be careful where you're targeting the wrong the thing for you.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make me. You don't call demanding a rematch hitting the Patriots. That's hitting the Patriots right there. I mean, I would say your victory doesn't count. Strip it from the record books. No asterisks. Get it out of there. And I want another game. I want a rematch.
It's never going to happen.
Of course,
Come on.
but that's
It's
what
never gonna happen.
that's what I would do.
Never going to happen.
That's what I would do. That's what I would do if I ran the league. If I ruffled a few feathers, I do apologize, but the point is, everything that's happened this week and having to put up with it every single day this past week since Monday. I mean, that's why I went off. And like I said, if I offended anybody, I do apologize for that. I never want to offend anyone. That's not my nature. You know that. So with that, I do apologize for that. But the point is, that's how you do it. The NFL, let this whole. I mean, this has been a controversy-ridden season, And I just hope that next year that the controversy gets the F out. No more controversy. I just don't want controversy. I hate controversy. That's all there is to it. Because I'm all about the fair play and the honesty. And you guys know that better than anybody. So that, mass fines, obviously, take the draft picks away. Belichick, obviously, I would suspend him for the year. Because ignorance is no excuse. Goodell made an example out of Sean Payton. I would make an example out of him too. Suspend him the whole year without pay. That's what I would do. And Mr. Golden Boy, well, I don't know what I would do with that, but anything that happens, it comes back to the head coach, and it also comes back to the owner as well. So it comes back to the organization as a whole. I really hope there was no wrongdoing here, but if there is, well, let me just say it like this. And Michael Bullock, I don't mean to disrespect you in any way, because I know you're a Patriot fan and whatnot, and I'm not targeting you or any Patriot fans out there. But in closing, before I throw it up to you, Michael Bullock, I'm just going to say it like this. I'd rather be a fan of a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 15 goddamn years than be a fan of a team that's been guilty of lying, cheating, and stealing. Period. End of quotation. End of my rant. Michael Bullock, how in the world are you going to follow that? Defend your team. I dare you.
Ooh, holy moly. Man, I don't know what to say. Yeah, some people are going to be saying, well, if I defend my team, well, let's just say, especially after Fletcher's rant, oh, I know he's going to be coming after me big time, but, well, here's the thing. When it comes to the investigation, the NFL and, of course, the lead investigator, they want to review everything that they got before they come to a decision. That's why it's probably going to take some time. They want to make sure they get this right. You want to talk about getting the calls right? Well, it's about getting the decision right, because we all remember what happened with the whole Ray Rice saga. The league only suspended him for 2 games, and everyone said that's the wrong decision. He should have been suspended longer. So they want to make sure they're really careful with it, because if they do something really, really harsh, and then all of a sudden they look at the video again, and then they said, all right, they didn't do that much, then they're going to be like, oh shit, we screwed up big time. So yeah, I think that's the reason why they want to take some time, because they want them, if they're going to make a decision on punishment, they have to do it right. They got to get it right. So yeah, and it's a damn shame that this is going to overshadow the Super Bowl, when we should be talking about the 2 teams that are playing in it, the Patriots and the Seahawks. And yeah, so, but if there was a fine, I would fine the team $1 million. I would fine the coach $1 million, and even the same amount for the quarterback, Tom Brady, as well. And I would take away not only their draft picks for this year, but for next year as well. That would be my punishment. If they do suspend the coach for a year, I'm fine with that too. But in the end, you guys pretty much touched on everything. But in the end, I think the ownership, they want to make sure. The league wants to gather, they already have the evidence, but they want to review it all before coming to a decision on what kind of punishment they're going to come up with. And I know I'm probably going to offend some people on that, and to those that I probably have offended, I apologize. And I'm not trying to defend my team. I'm saying that right now. If playing with deflated footballs not to the amount is just wrong. It's absolutely wrong, in my honest opinion. So like I said, once again, I'm not trying to defend my team because doing something like that is just wrong. So to those that I offend, I apologize. So with that being said, Anthony, what's your take on what I just said before we move on?
Good for you, Michael Ball. That's all I can say. It's good for you. I'm glad you I'm glad you feel that way. I mean, I know, just like me. I mean, you're all about the honor and the fair play, like I am,
Yeah,
and that's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what should have. I mean, you know how we are about injustice. That's all there is to say about it. So
and what about what I said about what the league is doing?
yeah, what the league should do. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, if they do all those things that you just mentioned, I'd be fine with that too. Of
And what
course.
about like what I said when if that they want to like take a look at everything before they come to an actual decision because you don't want to
Yes.
like you don't want to
Yes.
look at it and then all of a sudden you see something later on like oh shoot we shouldn't have suspect like come up with a fine that
Yes.
huge.
Oh yes. Oh yes. You have to be absolutely sure. I mean, attention to detail, obviously. I mean, that's the most important thing. I mean,
Yeah, take the whole Ray Rice situation. They only suspended him for 2 games. Then what happened? They saw the tape from later on, and then all of a sudden they said, "Shoot, we should have suspended him longer."
yeah. Well, and that's why I went off. So that's all there is to say
And that's
about it.
why I say, well, this time around they want to make sure of everything before they come to an actual decision
Exactly.
for punishment. So that's
Right.
why it's probably going to take a little bit of time and may not come till after the Super Bowl.
Whatever. So that's all I can say about it. So with that said, I'm done with this nonsense. I'm just gonna move on. Let's move on to something a lot lighter, if that's okay, because I
Yeah,
hate the hard times. So of course, so we have one more NFL story here. Of course, it was announced this past week that the Denver Broncos have hired Gary Kubiak to be their new head coach of the Denver Broncos, and that's exactly what we're going to get into now. And great hire for Denver. I mean, he knows the team. Of course, John Elway. I mean, Kubiak was John Elway's backup. Everybody remembers that. And of course, also was the head coach recently of the Houston Texans. Put them on the map, made them relevant. You know, got them to the playoffs a couple of times. Had a couple of great years there. Unfortunately, after 2013, it didn't work out. Of course, this past year, he was the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, and did a great job with that offense. Joe Flacco and company did a great job with him. And you know, I mean, I like this hire for Denver. I think he's going to do a great job. And now the big question is Peyton Manning. I mean, is Peyton Manning going to retire? Is he going to come back? I really hope Peyton Manning comes back. I really do. I mean, because he can. I mean, Kubiak and Peyton. I mean, that would be a great team. I think Gary Kubiak can make Peyton even better than what he already was. And I don't know. I mean, well, obviously we won't know what Peyton's going to do. For a while. So we'll wait until something comes out of that. We don't want to rush to judgment like a certain group of suits up there does. But anyways, I like this hire. It's a great hire for Denver. He did some great things in Houston, like I said, put them on the map. And Bill O'Brien, he's taken over that job. He's done a great job with Houston as well. Just missed the postseason, but the point is, Kubiak's got a great track record. I mean, he's a great head coach. He's a great offensive coordinator. So terrific and perfect hire by the Denver Broncos. So there's really nothing left for me to say on this except Michael Bullock, your thoughts on Gary Kubiak going to Denver?
yeah, I actually like this hire because, like I said, this is not his first go around with the Denver Broncos. He knows everything about him. Well, not this version because remember he was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach from '95 to '92, and then of course just the offensive coordinator. Well, first off, he first came around, of course, as the running backs coach at Texas A&M from '92 to '93. He was the 49ers quarterback coach from '94, and then from '95 to to 2002, he was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the Denver Broncos, and of course, he was part of those 2 Super Bowl championships for them in 32 and 33. And then he was just offensive coordinator from 2003 to 2005. And then from 2006 to 2013 was the head coach of the Houston Texans. And of course, this past season, he was the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. So, yeah, of course, Kubiak took the Texans to the postseason in 2011 and 2012, where basically ended up losing on divisional weekend. So, yeah, so I mean, I like that because he is an offensive guy, and he's going to a team that's got a lot when it comes to the on the offensive side of the ball. Of course, you got C.J. Anderson, Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Wes Welker. Well, we don't know about Wes Welker if he's going to be coming back or not, but we'll have to wait and see on that. So, yeah, and of course he's got somewhat of a pretty good defense. And the thing, yeah, so, yeah, of course, as far as Peyton Manning goes, yeah, I really hope he does come back, but like I said, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, it depends on his health and whatnot. So, yeah, I love the hire, so I really got nothing else to say except, yeah, so I really got nothing else to say except I'm just going to give it to Fletch for his thoughts on the Gary Kubiak hiring.
Well, I'm just gonna say it like this. I was actually very shocked to hear that Gary Kubiak was going to the Denver Broncos. That was the last team I actually thought of that he would go because there was a few other teams that were out there at the time. Um, but I wish him nothing but the best. I know he's very familiar with Denver. Definitely was very close with John Elway, and I really felt like Elway kind of did a disservice in a way, and I was really ticked off about it because I really thought that you know he rushed John Fox out the door, and I thought the way he handled it was downright disrespectful. And I'm a big John Elway mark, and I'm a big John Elway fan. I respect the guy. I love the body of work of him, but as a GM or as the head of football operations for the Denver Broncos, this was probably one of the most shakiest decisions he's ever made that I felt. Um, and obviously, he didn't get along with John Fox. John Fox had a different style of football that he liked to do, and uh, it didn't agree with the way that I guess John Elway and the upper management felt. And I thought, especially after the way they handled the AFC Championship, the road to the AFC title game, and the way that they lost to Indy. I mean, you could have said something was bad. Nobody really knew if this was going to be the last time we were going to see Peyton Manning in the NFL, and now John Fox gets fired, Gary Kubiak is in, and I want to see how this plays out. But he was like, I really thought the press conference itself really rubbed me the wrong way, and it's not Gary Kubiak's fault, and I'm not gonna blast him because I respect him, and I think what happened in Houston was really a bum steer and kind of a tough break for him to say the very least. But at the end of the day, they had to change and move different directions, and from there, we'll wait and see what happens. But I like the move. I like the hire. There's really nothing else to say. Anthony, it's yours.
Right. Moving on now. That's it for the NFL. So we're going to move on to our next story, which is the first half of the NHL season, which has just ended. Of course, tomorrow night. Well, we are now in the. It is now officially NHL All-Star Weekend, and of course tomorrow night, so tonight, later tonight rather, 7 o'clock on the NBC Sports Network. Of course, it'll be the Super Skills Competition, and then on Sunday afternoon at 5 o'clock, it will be the NHL All-Star Game from the Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio. of course, we're going to share our thoughts on this first half of the season and what we think. Our highlights. Everything else. So you can talk about your team if you want. So and of course everything else that's going on in the league. So Michael Bullock, looking at this NHL first half, this first half of this NHL season, what stood out to you the most, Michael Bullock?
All right. Well, what stood out to me? Well, yeah. To me, my disappointments. I want to get that out of the way. My disappointments. I think it's got to be the defending Stanley Cup champion Los Angeles Kings, because you see by their record. I mean, they're. Oops, sorry about that. I muted a little bit. So yeah, I mean they're only 20. I'm trying to pull it. 20, 15, and 12. I mean, that's not what you expected from your defending Stanley Cup champions. I mean, you expected them to play even better. And the other big disappointment is the team that I know, my Boston Bruins. I mean, they got off to such a slow start at the beginning of the year, and yeah, near the end of the first half, they have picked it up. But if they want to stay in this playoff chase, they need to keep that going in the second half. And yeah, and of course, as we take a look at the, and if the season were to end as of right now, the teams that would be in, if I could see, is in known as right now the Boston Bruins. They currently hold the number 8 seed in the Eastern Conference overall, and of course the top two teams that have played really well the first half of the year, of course, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Islanders. Of course, Montreal, I mean, no surprise with them. I mean, you expect them to be in there every year. And Detroit's played really good in the first half, and of course your New York Rangers, finalists in the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, they had a 27-13 record, well, 27-13-4 when it comes to that, and of course the best team overall is when it comes to the Western side of things, well, they are the best team overall in the Anaheim Ducks with, of course, a record of 31-10-6 with 68 points, and Nashville's right in there too with a record of 30-10-5, and Chicago, I mean, what else would you expect from them? They're in there as well with a record of 30-15-2. So yeah, and Vancouver's in the mix, and yeah, the same thing goes with Calgary, and the thing is, right now, I mean, for Los Angeles, I mean, as I see with the Western Conference standings, if the season were to end today, shockingly, they would not make the playoffs. So yeah, so if they want to get back to the postseason and defend their title, they need a better second half of the year when it comes to them. So yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say when it comes to the first half of the season. So with that being said, Fletcher, your thoughts on the first half of the NHL season?
Well, like you said, Michael, but like it's been a compare of two parts of the season. Yeah, Boston's been a little bit struggling lately, and they were starting off at a red hot clip, but now it looks like they're struggling. But let's be realistic. Right now, the teams that basically everybody's chasing after is the New York Islanders and the Tampa Bay Lightning, especially in the East. Tampa and New York has been playing really well. Now Detroit all of a sudden has caught fire. The New York Rangers have caught fire lately, and they're really starting to climb up in their divisions respectively. As a matter of fact, Detroit actually has won 5 in a row going into this All-Star break, and they're only 1 point out of the number 1 seed in the entire Eastern Conference. So I mean, what they've been doing so far has been amazing. Of course, New York has won 17 out of the last 20 games. They've been 8-2 in the last 10. 3 straight wins. And remember, New York struggled at the very beginning. But my most disappointing teams had to be the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Philadelphia Flyers in the East. I mean, Philadelphia last year was a playoff team. Columbus was a playoff team a year ago, and both teams are really underperformed up to this point. In the West, I think the biggest shocker for me is Nashville, the Nashville Predators, and them leading the division right now with 65 points. St. Louis and Detroit, I mean, St. Louis and Chicago is expected. They've always been there, so we're not really that surprised with them. Winnipeg's caught fire lately, and now they're in the mix. And what a story that would be if the Winnipeg Jets could make the playoffs. And it looks like they're firmly hold. They have a pretty much stranglehold on one of the wild card spots, and if they keep playing the way they are in the second half, they will make it in the postseason. Um, as far as the other end goes, Anaheim, San Jose, Vancouver, they're practically the usual suspects. No big surprise there. Calgary's right there. They're holding the second and final playoff spot, as actually wild card spot in the West. But boy, do they got teams breathing down their necks. You got the defending Stanley Cup champions, um, the LA Kings. You got Colorado. You got Minnesota. Dallas is still in the mix because right now the two teams that looks like they're out of the running, at least in my eyes, would be the Arizona Coyotes and the Edmonton Oilers. But all those other teams are right there in striking distance. So, I mean, we're going to have a very exciting second half of the season, at least in the West, because there's at least 5 teams right now playing for one playoff spot, for the second wild card spot, and then who knows what's going to happen. But Winnipeg and Winnipeg is definitely surprising a few people. So have New York as well, because like I said, New York struggled. They stumbled so badly out of the gates. I was really ticked with the Rangers. Anthony Flair can agree to that, but I really like what they've been doing lately. So, right on with the Rangers. So, with that said, Anthony, I give it to you.
Yeah, very exciting first half of this NHL season, and if we were doing a power rankings tonight, I think it's needless to say the Anaheim Ducks would probably be the number one team in that ranking because they've won 5 games in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. I mean, Anaheim's always had that good young team. I mean, I believe they had the best record last year. Well, in the West anyway. I think Boston had the best record last year. The Bruins. I mean, very surprising what's going on with them. I mean, a lot was made about Boston. I mean, a lot of people had them darn near penciled in for the finals, damn near. But they've only lost 1 game. They're as of now they're on only a 1-game losing streak. They're 6-1-3 in their last 10, so they're doing well. I think they'll be okay. Detroit Red Wings. I mean, this is the best I've seen them from the Red Wings in a long time. I mean, they've had some decent teams over the years, but Detroit's doing some great things. Of course, I got to talk about my Rangers. Mine and Michael Fletcher's Rangers. I mean, Michael Fletcher, I know he was upset about how we started and whatnot, but yeah, and I was too. But I haven't lost faith because I've said this team is a Stanley Cup caliber team, and I still feel that way. I really do. And they're a very hot team right now. They've won 15 of their last 18 games overall. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 3 games in a row. You remember they had those 2 piss-poor games against the Islanders and the Bruins, but they bounced back against Columbus. They bounced back against Pittsburgh, and then just the other night against the Ottawa Senators in Madison Square Garden. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with how the Rangers have been doing as of late, and I strongly feel that they have what it takes to make another Stanley Cup run this year. I really do. Of course, Tampa Bay. I mean, what can you say about Tampa? I mean, 3-game winning streak of their own, 7-3 in their last 10. Detroit, they've won 5 in a row as well. They're 8-2 in their last 10. You could probably make the argument for them to be number 2 in the power rankings behind Anaheim, or maybe even number 1. I don't know. Of course, the biggest surprise, far and away. Let's not kid ourselves, guys. It is the New York Islanders. I mean, when was the last time? When was the last time they were relevant? Since the days of Mike Boston and Brian Trottier and Billy Smith was the goalie, and Al Arbor was the coach of that team. You know, when they were winning 4 Stanley Cups from 1980 to 1983. And Pittsburgh, I mean, what's going on with Pittsburgh, guys? I mean, 4-game losing streak, 4-3-3 in their last 10. I don't know if they'd be in our power rankings if we were doing those tonight. But Montreal, I mean, 29-13-3, two-game winning streak, 7-2-1 in their last 10. I mean, we got a lot of hot teams right now. St. Louis, 2-game winning streak, 7-2-1 in their last 10. Chicago, 2-game winning streak, 5-5. And of course, how about those Winnipeg Jets? I mean, I marked the F out when they came back because you know how much I love my old school NHL. Of course, next what they have to do, of course, bring back the Quebec Nordiques and the Hartford Whalers while you're at it. If you do that, then I'm a very happy man. Winnipeg Jets, yes, 5-game winning streak, 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. I mean, they're a hot team. I mean, I know Derek and Michael Fletcher, pretty much scoffed at me last week about Winnipeg being deserving of being in the power rankings. But I think if they were in there tonight, I think they'd be damn near in the top 5 because of their body of work as of right now. Unbelievable. And Nashville, very impressive with the Predators and what they were doing with Peter Laviolette. I mean, Peter Laviolette, he's got that Midas touch. I mean, he turned teams into gold. I mean, look what he did in Carolina, for God's sakes. Led him to a Stanley Cup in 2006. And he got the Flyers to the finals in 2010. And don't forget, right here, when he was the coach of the Providence Bruins, he led him to a Calder Cup in 1999. I mean, his body of work speaks for itself. I mean, Peter Laviolette, say what you want about him, but he's a damn good coach as far as I'm concerned. And, of course, with what the recent struggles of the Los Angeles Kings, I mean, as a Ranger fan, I am very happy about that because, I did not like the way they won that Stanley Cup last year. I mean, I know a lot of people, I was saying, are you still on that? You damn right I am. I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to let that go. But the only way I'm going to let it go is if the Rangers ever do win another Stanley Cup. I mean, if the Rangers do win a Stanley Cup, then, and only then, I'll let it go. But 4-game losing streak, 2-3-5 in their last 10. Wow. That doesn't sound like a Stanley Cup champ to me. To me, that sounds like a chump. And they've been playing like chumps as of late. And if they miss the playoffs, I mean, that's huge because then we'd be guaranteed a new Stanley Cup champion. I mean, I would love to see that. But Michael Fletcher makes a great point. I mean, all these teams are in the mix in the West, with the exception of course, the Arizona Coyotes and the Edmonton Oilers, who are far and away out of it. But look at the Eastern side. I mean, you got a lot of teams that are in the mix as well. But we got a top-heavy conference. I mean, Buffalo Sabres, they're nowhere near it. The Carolina Hurricanes, forget about it. New Jersey Devils, not really. And Fletch makes a great point about the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Philadelphia Flyers, playoff teams from the Metropolitan Division. They completed, along with the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Rangers, they were the 4 teams that represented the Metropolitan Division in the Stanley Cup playoffs last year. Of course, we all know the Rangers came out of it, obviously. But Philly and Columbus, not doing too good. Washington, the Capitals, they're on a 3-game losing streak, even though they're 6-2-2 in their last 10. It's not bad at all. But as of now, if it were to end today, in the Eastern Conference, you would have, in the Atlantic Division, you would have the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Detroit Red Wings, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Boston Bruins. Tampa Bay would be against Boston. Detroit would go against Montreal. Holy crap, did I just say Detroit against Montreal? Think about that, guys. Detroit and Montreal, old school, original 6 in the first round of the playoffs. Hell yeah, sign me up, boy. I'm all for that. And then in the Metropolitan Division, you would have the New York Islanders, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the New York Rangers, and the Washington Capitals. You would have the New York Islanders against the Washington Capitals. And one more time, a Tony and Mike special, a Florio and Fletcher special, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Rangers. One more time.
It never seems to amaze us. Every year we run into those bastards.
But lately, Fletch, we've had their number. We've owned them. Let's not kid ourselves. We've owned them as of late. So I actually would give us I would give us more than a puncher's chance to win that series. I really would. I mean, I know I had concerns last year, but boy howdy, they proved me wrong, man. But you had that feeling. I'll give it to you. You had that feeling, whereas I didn't. Islanders against Washington, the other matchup, and then of course Tampa Bay against Boston, and Detroit and Montreal. Holy crap, that would be freaking awesome if we ever get to see that. And then the Central Division, Nashville Predators, St. Louis Blues, Chicago Blackhawks, Winnipeg Jets. Nashville will go against Winnipeg. And sorry, Matt Ward, I hate to say it to you, but your Blackhawks would have to face the St. Louis Blues. And I know you don't want to face those guys because we all know that St. Louis gave them a hell of a series last year. But Chicago still won. And then in the Pacific Division, Anaheim Ducks, San Jose Sharks, Vancouver Canucks, and by 1 point, guys, the Calgary Flames would edge out the defending champs. The champs would be gone. LA Kings would be gone. That would be freaking awesome. You would have Anaheim against Calgary and San Jose against Vancouver. And then let the chips fall where they may after that. So, definitely a very exciting first half of the NHL season. Biggest surprise, like I said, bar none, New York Islanders. I mean, I'm rooting for them. Even though I'm a Ranger fan, I'm rooting for them to do well. I would love to see this team back in the limelight for the first time in over 30 years. So well done to the New York Islanders. Well done. And, of course, the biggest disappointment, of course, it would have to be the LA Kings. I mean, how can it not? But All-Star Weekend is here, fellas. Skills competition tonight. I'm looking really forward to that. I love the skills competition. So damn fun to watch. And then, of course, the game itself, 5 o'clock, Sunday, NHL Network. Nice little warm-up before the Pro Bowl, or in our case, not the Pro Bowl, but the Royal Rumble, which, of course, we'll talk about tomorrow night. But enough of that. Let's move on. NBA All-Stars. The starting lineups were announced just the other day. Of course, as you all know, NBA All-Star Weekend, as everybody knows, that's going to be Valentine's Day weekend, February 14th through the 15th. And believe it or not, guys, it's going to be in 2 different venues. Of course, All-Star Saturday night is going to be at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, whereas the All-Star game itself will be played for the first time since 1998 in the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. All right. Starting lineups, they are as follows. Representing the Western Conference team. From the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry. Representing the Los Angeles Lakers, Kobe Bryant, although that might be up in the air now. From the New Orleans Pelicans, Anthony Davis. From the Memphis Grizzlies, Marc Gasol. And rounding out the Western Conference starters, from the Los Angeles Clippers, Blake Griffin. Representing the Eastern Conference, from the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James. From the New York Knicks, Carmelo Anthony. From the Chicago Bulls, Pau Gasol. From the Washington Wizards, John Wall. And from the Toronto Raptors, Kyle Lowry. Yes, you heard me say that. So with that said, I'm going to toss it up to our resident Stephen A. Smith, Michael A. Fletcher. Michael Fletcher, Mr. NBA. Time for you to put on your analyst hat, my friend. What do you think of these lineups? Do you have a problem with it? Do you feel somebody got snubbed? What?
All right, you know what, Anthony? I'm just gonna say this. As far as Kobe Bryant being in it, I kind of feel like he deserves to be in it. Unfortunately, we all know why he's not going to be in it. He did suffer a torn rotator cuff, and he's now done for the season. So my heart breaks for Kobe, and I wish him nothing but the best in a speedy recovery. But as far as all the other All-Stars goes, at least on the West, they're all deserving. I got to see Anthony Davis in person. I'll get into that in a little bit. And Steph Curry, without a doubt, to me, is the MVP of the NBA this season. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He deserves it. Marc Gasol, with the Memphis Grizzlies, done a great job with that team as always. And Blake Griffin is just a human highlight reel for the LA Clippers. So for me, as far as the West goes, I got no complaints. Even with Kobe being in it, I think he deserved it. Over on the East, I only have one slight criticism with that, and that's Carmelo Anthony. Now, yes, he leads. He is fifth in the NBA in scoring, but the team has been absolutely horrible this year. LeBron James, Pau Gasol, John Wall, Kyle Lowry, they're all near the top in their respective teams, and no doubt about it, especially with Kyle Lowry. A lot of people were like, well, does he really deserve to be in it or not? Based off my feeling and my thoughts, I think you can maybe make a case for Bradley Beal instead of Kyle Lowry. I think that's the only minor gripe I would have. But I think other than that, Carmelo does not deserve to be an all-star, at least an all-star starter. I mean, he deserves to be on the team, but he doesn't deserve to get one of the 5 spots. I think that was a little bit of a bad move by the fans, but like I said, it's a fan vote, so there's really nothing I can say. One of the biggest surprises is for me to see that Pau Gasol got for center. I think you could really make a case for Nene to get it. I mean, you could make a case for some other players, especially on some other good teams in the East. But I'm happy to see at least one Chicago Bull there. But I truly believe that we're gonna see at least maybe 2 or 3 more Bulls comprised of the All-Star roster when this is all said and done. As you know, the reserves gets announced next week, next Thursday actually. The reserves gets announced. So with that said, I don't really got much of a gripe with it. I mean, there may be a couple, like 1 or 2 spots where I might have a little disagreement with, but I'm happy with the All-Star teams nonetheless. So Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, Carmelo Anthony. I mean, that's more of a political choice than anything else. If I'm being honest. I mean, it's the New York. Look, where did I just say the game's going to be, guys? Madison Square Garden, home of the New York Knicks. Of course, they're going to want Carmelo Anthony there. I mean, and I agree. The Knicks have been piss poor. They're terrible. 16-game losing streak. However, break them up. They just won 2 in a row. They actually won again tonight against the Orlando Magic. Go figure. But the point is, I'd swap out Anthony, and I would swap in. I don't know who I would put in. I really don't know. But other than that, I mean, I really can't complain about the other Eastern Conference guys. I mean, LeBron, come on, that's a given. Kyle Lowry, Toronto Raptors, man, I like that. Villanova guy, Big East guy. I'm going to be partial to that because of my Big East bias. Everybody knows that. And what he's done with the Toronto Raptors this year, I mean, Toronto, far and away leading the Atlantic Division. We'll get more into that when we do our power rankings shortly because they're in it. I'll be honest with you, they're in it. Toronto is. Pau Gasol, Chicago Bulls, loving his body of work. I mean, they got a big win tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. Chicago's stock just went up when it comes to the power rankings. There's no doubt about that. Of course, let's see, John Wall, the Washington Wizards. I mean, I'm really loving what they're doing. I mean, that team is relevant for the first time in a long time. I mean, that's a team that we always used to make fun of for being, a piss poor, average, mediocre team. But hey, John Wall and company, loving what they're doing. On the Western side, even though I am maybe the biggest Kobe hater out there because of his noggin diva antics. The injuries that he's gone through. I mean, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, to be honest with you. But Father Time. I think Father Time has finally caught up with him, and it's obvious his season's done. I don't see him playing in the game at all. I think they're gonna have to find an injury replacement for him. And then, of course, on the other side of the coin, Blake Griffin. I mean, that's another given because he's a highlight reel. LA Clippers. And then Marc Gasol, brother of Pau. I mean, brother matchup. That's going to be interesting. with the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, Memphis doing some great things this year. I mean, they got a high record. I mean, they're going to be in the power rankings as well. Their body of work's been great. Um, and then from there, with Stephen Curry, I'll get into Stephen Curry in a minute. Anthony Davis, another former Kentucky product. I mean, the heart and soul of that Kentucky team that won the national championship a few years ago. I mean, he's a stud. There's no doubt about that. He was a stud in college. I mean, he's definitely starting to play up to his potential finally. I mean, I know the New Orleans Pelicans are a Met team, but still, I mean, they're a middle of the road team right now, and top heavy Western Conference. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they'll come up a little bit short, but I love Anthony Davis's body of work. And then finally, Stephen Curry. What can you say about Stephen Curry? What can you say about the Golden State Warriors altogether? Top 2 in the power rankings. There's no doubt about it. The body of work's unbelievable. And his coach, Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is going to be the head coach of the Western Conference All-Stars, whereas the Atlanta Hawks head coach, Mike Oberholzer, is going to be the head coach of the Eastern Conference All-Stars. That was just announced recently as well. So they got that right. Of course, the best records at the All-Star break, their coach gets to automatically coach the team. So that's going to be Mike Oberholzer of Atlanta and Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr, what can you say about Steve Kerr? I mean, my goodness. Rookie head coach, and my goodness, he ain't playing like a rookie head coach with what Golden State's doing and what they're doing right now to the Sacramento Kings. They can look like the Sacramento Queens, for God's sakes. My gosh. But like I said, we'll get into all that in just a moment. So pretty much touched on everything, Fletch. I mean, I pretty much agree with you, except for the Carmelo Anthony thing. But with that said, Michael Bullock, your thoughts on the All-Star rosters?
Yeah, I pretty much agree on what everyone has said. I mean, yeah, the Carmelo Anthony starting, yeah, I mean, I don't agree with that. I mean, he should at least be on the bench when it comes to it. But I mean, obviously, I can understand the reason why, because it's in New York, and obviously they want to give him his time. But yeah, but I disagree with him being a starter. But yeah, but other than that, I mean, you guys pretty much touched on everything. I agree with everything else, so there's really nothing else for me to say except let's move on, Florio.
We're going to move on to Michael Fletcher. Of course, last Monday, well, a couple Mondays ago, back on January the 12th, Michael Fletcher and his brother-in-law went to the TD Garden to see the Boston Celtics go up against the New Orleans Pelicans. The Celtics won that game 108-100. So, Michael Fletcher, the floor is yours. Put on that analyst hat and share your thoughts and what stood out to you in that game and everything else. So, Michael Fletcher, the floor is yours.
Well, I'll say this, guys. First off, it was just it was an absolute joy to be at the TD Garden in Boston for the first time ever, and to literally walk the hallowed halls of that very nice building. And the thing was, I went through I went through via train, took the train here from Providence, got all the way up to the station, and I met up with my brother-in-law, and we walked into the building, and he was like, "Well, is this how many times have you been to the TD Garden?" I was like, "No, this is my first time, going here." So I actually got a chance to walk in, and I got a feeling just to get in, and I got a chance to just walk in the first time around. Got my ticket scanned and whatnot, but then I got a look at the scoreboard and everything else, and I got a little giddy. I'll say that. But the minute I walked inside, and there's the most glaring thing, and I think you guys will know that, is the banners. You look up and you see the 17 banners of the Boston Celtics. I think it's like 8 or 9 banners now of the Boston Bruins, and the legendary numbers that were retired. From Bobby Orr to Ray Borick, to Cam Neely, or for the Celtics, where you see, them draped out in that in those different numbers, where you see, 3, 33, 35, the double zero. Um, just it just brings an aura, and you're like, oh my god, this is tradition and it's legacy more than anything else. So I got to sit, and I was pretty high up. I was in section 305 for all you fans who normally goes to TV Garden, and I actually had a really good spot. But I actually got to give credit where credit's due to my buddy Kenny Andre because he sat in a balcony seat one time, and he's like, guys, if you ever go to TV Garden, there's never a bad seat in the garden. Like you'll get to see everything from the court. And let me tell you, he was absolutely right. I got a very good seat from what I saw from that game, and you know, it was thrilling. It was exciting. It was back and forth down the wire. But Boston and New Orleans was really coming out and playing their hearts out. I gotta say Brandon Bass looked really good. I gotta say Evan Turner looked really good as well. Kelly Olynyk didn't have the best game, but I thought he could have done a little better. But Anthony Davis, you know, this is why I said, when they said he was an all-star, let me tell you, this guy went off. He had about 25 points. He did a double-double in the night, had 25 to 13 in the game. But let me tell you, man, the way he exploded to the ball was just absolutely phenomenal what he did in the game. Um, but at the end of the day, there was some key three-pointers that the Celtics made. They actually hung on to get a 108 to 100 win. It was a great victory for them, and it definitely stood out for me. And I think the one funny thing is that every time I've been going recently to any sporting event, I don't know what it is, but they're always like they end up being almost 4.5, 5-star classics lately. I mean, from the Boston Red Sox game where I went back on it was July 31st, I believe it was 2005, and the Red Sox won that game 3-2. Then the next year was I went to a preseason game with Kaiser Butler right here at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, and it was the Celtics and the Knicks. And that game turned out as a 5-star classic. The Knicks won 104-102, and I mean it was literally down to the wire. Then I went to an AHL hockey game with Megan Silva, and the P Bruins won that game over the Manchester Monarchs in overtime, 3-2, and that actually sent the P Bruins into the playoffs. And now this game. So I don't know what it is. It's like every time I've been going lately, it's always excitement down to the wire, Shakespearean drama to the fullest. But I gotta say, it was without a doubt a thrilling moment for me to be in TD Garden for the first time ever. And I'm gonna make this vow that this is not gonna be the last time I'm going to TD Garden. Hopefully, I'll get to go again in the very near future. Um, if you guys have any questions for me, I'm more than willing to take them, guys. So if you guys have any questions, fire away.
By the bullet.
I don't have any questions. How about you, Floria?
Well, just I do have just one, Fletch. Of course, you said about the banners and everything else. I mean, you saw obviously the Stanley Cup banners of the Bruins, the NBA championship banners of the Celtics, and the retired numbers and everything else.
Yes.
But you said what was it like setting foot into the Garden and looking down and seeing that infamous parquet floor? What was that like?
That was probably the most thrilling thing for me. The parquet floor is so synonymous with the Boston Celtics, and it used to be the biggest thing about the Boston Garden. Now I know the parquet floor has actually been a little altered through the years because of the fact that it's been more modernized, but it still has certain things. It's the little things about that arena that makes it more thrilling, and just being there for the first time was thrilling. when they were introducing the Celtics, how the lights went out in the arena, and you see that thing at the on the scoreboard, the light, and the history of the Celtics and everything else. It was so thrilling to be there, and yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I wish I would have been down on floor level, but the seats were great seats anyway, and hopefully in the near future, maybe I'll be able to walk on the parquet floor and get the feel for it. But we'll wait and see what happens in the near future. But other than that, I was absolutely thrilled, and it was a great time and quite an experience that I shall never forget.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, man. I mean, hopefully someday, all of us here at Stricken Sports, we'll get to do something like that, whether it's the Celtics or the Bruins or um, the Patriots or the Red Sox or of course, with the WWE when the next time they come through here, if it's something that's worth going to. So very, very nice indeed, Michael Fletcher. So we definitely appreciate you sharing your experiences on that. We got a lot more to get into. Of course, next up, we're gonna talk about some Major League Baseball now. Max Scherzer signing a 7-year, $210 million contract with the Washington Nationals. I mean, wow. Of course, it's only fitting that I started off as I am the Mr. Baseball of this group. I'm going to channel my inner Tim McCarver on this one. Fantastic signing by the Washington Nationals. That rotation is now 5 large, 5 deep, and I think this Nationals team is going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. I really do. You already got Strasburg in there. I mean, my goodness. I mean, Scherzer coming off a Cy Young Award year a couple of years ago with the Detroit Tigers and had a memorable postseason run. Unfortunately, the Sox, came away with the win at the end, but, well, for them anyways, not for us, because, we wanted that to win. But Max Scherzer, one of the best right-handed pitchers in the game today, if not the best. I mean, his body of work speaks for itself. I mean, power pitcher, strikeout guy, and he's just what the Washington Nationals need. They needed one more starter. With one more ace starter, I think the Washington Nationals could have gotten past the San Francisco Giants in the division series. There's no question about it. But they didn't have that one. I mean, he could be to the Washington Nationals, Max Scherzer, what Madison Bumgarner is to the San Francisco Giants, or what Clayton Kershaw is to the Los Angeles Dodgers. That dominant power pitcher who can get you at least 20 or more wins, well over 200 strikeouts, well over 200 innings, sub ERA, probably right around 2.5 or so, if not lower than that. But with that rotation, that bullpen, and that 1-9 lineup, you're there first. I think the Washington Nationals are going to be one of the teams to beat in this upcoming Major League Baseball season. I really do. This is a team that's been so close over the years. As long as they can avoid that top-heavy competition, this team could be the team to beat. And we could see this team make a World Series run in 2015. I really do. The contract, I mean, a little out there, but hey, I mean, what can you say? They obviously had the money to spend, and that's Yankee money, if you ask me. I mean, since when did the Washington Nationals have Yankee money? But nonetheless, though, a great move by the Washington Nationals that just made them a hell of a lot better. From the rotation, from the 1-5 rotation, to the bullpen, to the offense, Matt Williams and company are going to have a hell of a 2015. And I would not be surprised if they win the NL East again, and I wouldn't be surprised if they end up finishing with the best record in the National League as well. So those are my 2 cents on it. So with that said, Michael Bullock, your thoughts on this Max Scherzer signing?
Yeah, I like the signing too of Max Scherzer to the Nationals. I mean, what can you say? I mean, now you add him to a rotation that's already got some pretty good starters. I mean, you add him to guys like Steven Strasburg and Jordan Zimmerman and Doug Fister and Gio Gonzalez. The only question is who's. I mean, how would it go? 1 through 5. To be quite honest with you, I still had Steven Strasburg as your number 1 starter because he is obviously the face of that team. And then of course have Scherzer number 2. Then of course Jordan Zimmerman number 3, Doug Fister number 4, and actually switch that. Have Gio Gonzalez at number 4, and then Doug Fister at number 5. But of course, we'll have to wait and see how it goes come spring training. But this definitely makes the Nationals as a favorite, of course, to once again win the NL East. With that rotation and so definitely, like I said, a really good signing. And of course, the last 2 years for Max Scherzer have been really good for the Detroit Tigers. And of course, in his 2013 season, which obviously turned out to be a Cy Young Award-winning season, he went 21-3 with a 2.90 ERA with 240 strikeouts, and he basically won the Cy Young Award with 28 of 30 first place votes, and of course Scherzer starts with what he did in the postseason was good. Well, his 2 starts in the ALCS were good. Of course, we all know the bullpen didn't help him out, of course, against the Red Sox. And then, of course, in 2014, he went 18-5 with a 3.90 ERA, 3.19 ERA, and pitched a career-high 220 in the 3rd innings, and also struck out 252 batters. So, definitely, I like the signing. So, and the Nationals, like I said, they'll be a contender to once again win the NL East. So, really got nothing else to say except I'm going to just toss it to Fletch.
This is not only just a move to possibly win the NL East, guys. This was a move to solidify yourself as a favorite for the World Series. Now you got 5 to 6 pitchers deep in your starting rotation. One guy that has to probably be moved to the bullpen, and without a doubt, Matt Scherzer, who is one of the reasons why Detroit was a really strong team for many years now, is now going to be probably one of the reasons why the Nationals are going to be contenders. And at the end of the day, this was a necessary and a right move for them. They needed to make some moves because the Marlins were making moves, the Padres were making moves, and they need to stay pace with some of those teams who's really upgraded this year and really needs to become a legitimate contender. And without a doubt, this was a great move for them. I'm so happy that they made this move, even though I'm not a big Nationals fan, but this was the right and most necessary move for them. 208 million or 210 for over 8 years. Definitely the right decision to be made and the right call for them. They needed to make some moves. They did it. They got their big fish, their big kahuna, like I would say. And now let's see where the chips fall where they may. But without a doubt, they've had a tremendous off season. Now let's see what Washington does going in. So with that said, Anthony, I give it to you.
All right. Of course, if you're just joining us, our breaking news story earlier tonight, Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub, Chicago Cubs legend, died tonight at the age of 83. And at this time, before we get into our NBA power rankings, we're going to share some quick thoughts and pay some quick respects to Ernie Banks. And we're going to do that right now. And we're going to start it off with Michael Bullock. Michael Bullock, your thoughts and your respects to the man who made the saying "Let's play two" a household name.
Yeah, definitely a sad night in Major League Baseball with the passing of Ernie Banks, 83 years old. I mean, what can you say? I mean, of course, his career numbers was was definitely one of the best, and of course, he hit 274 for his career, 2,583 hits, 512 home runs, 1,636 runs batted in, and he spent his entire career with one team, and that was the Chicago Cubs. And he was basically famous for that phrase that you just mentioned there, Florio. And yeah, and he was a 14-time All Star, a two-time NL MVP back in 1958, 1959, a Gold Glove Award winner in 1960, a two-time NL Home Run champion, 1958 to 1960, and a two-time NL RBI champion, 1958 and 1959, and of course had his number retired by the Cubs, and also is a member of the Major League Baseball All-Century team, and of course he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1977, and yeah, not just that, and he was nicknamed he was nicknamed Mr. Cub, and of course also Mr. Sunshine, and yeah, and before he got into the Cubs, he basically got his way through in the Negro Leagues back in 1950 when he played for the Kansas City Monarchs, and he also served in the military for 2 years before he returned to the Kansas City Monarchs, and yeah, and excuse me, yeah, and and of course then in 1972 he also joined the Cubs coaching staff once he retired, and in 2013 he was basically awarded with the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his contribution to sports. So yeah, so like I said, he made his debut. He signed with the Cubs back on September 14th, 1953, and yeah, made his major league debut at Wrigley Field back on September 17th at age 22 that year, and yeah, and the rest, as they said, was history with all the numbers that I mentioned. So yeah, definitely a sad day a sad night for all of baseball, and yeah, all I can say is rest in peace, Ernie Banks. Godspeed, and you were definitely the definition of. When you say Chicago Cubs, you only think of one man, Ernie Banks. He was indeed Mr. Cub. Rest in peace, my friend. God bless you, and we'll all miss you very much. Fletcher, your thoughts?
You know what? It's a tough night, guys. It's a very tough night, to say the very least. And you pretty much said it all with that beautifully speech that you made. And yes, um, I, Bernie Banks is going to be missed. And he was a two-time. He won many awards in his day. He was actually uh, deemed the Rookie of the Year, I believe. Yeah, he was actually the National League. Uh, he was actually voted as runner-up in the Rookie of the Year in. Let me see what year this is. This was actually in 1955. Lost it to Willie Moon, who actually won the award. And then, of course, in that year, there was a number of things that he did. Of course, he was voted, he was actually the National League uh, MVP, and actually did it in back-to-back years. Um, he actually was MVP in 1959 and 1960. Made it to an All-Star game in 1961. Um, and actually no, let me stand corrected. He was actually MVP in 1958 and 1959, and was selected to an All-Star game in 1960, and then of course was an All-Star for a number of years, um, to say the very least. But it was definitely a tough thing to hear. He had an 18-year major league career where he comprised himself of over 2,583 hits, had almost 407 doubles, 90 triples, 512 home runs, and 1,636 RBIs in almost as he played in almost 2,500 games in his career, where he had over 9,421 at bats. Um, and the thing is, what made him so great was, he stayed with one team. Like the body of work that he did was basically through his entire career. And I kind of feel like he did so much for himself and so much for the baseball in a way that he deserves all the recommendations and all the accolades that so richly deserved. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1977 when he received almost 83% of the votes on that. He was a Gold Glover in 1960. He, like I said, National League MVP in 1958, 1959, and won the Lou Gehrig Memorial Award in 1967. Um, so, I mean, like I said, he was an all-star, and listen to this, guys. He was an all-star in 1955, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 65, 67, and 69. Um, I mean, he was without a doubt a great Iron Horse, a true legend of the game, and was well respected by not only Cubs fans but by baseball fans all around the world. Like I said, a true legend of the game is gone, and for me, our thoughts and prayers are with his entire family, with the entire Chicago Cubs organization. Um, Wrigley Field put it on their marquee today. Just a few hours ago, after word got out that Ernie Banks had died, it had Ernie Banks, and it clearly stated Ernie Banks, Mr. Cub, 1931 to 2015. Um, like I said, a legend, gone but never forgotten, and he will be missed by all baseball fans alike. And that's really all I can say. Rest in peace. And Anthony, it's yours, my friend.
Yeah, very hard to say the very least. I mean, breaking news story as it happened, just as we were ready to come on. That's when we got the word. Michael Fletcher discovered it on Twitter and felt that it was a good idea to share it. Obviously, it was. I mean, Ernie Banks meant so much to the Chicago Cubs. I mean, the heart and soul of that team. You know, they had some great years early on, and then all of a sudden, the wheels came off, and they had a lot of bad years. And of course, 2003, the last time this franchise had a chance to go to the World Series. I mean, they had the World Series berth right in their lap, but unfortunately, they choked it away against the Marlins in the NLCS. But they've been to the postseason a couple more times, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. But of course, they made those big moves. They got John Lester coming in. They got Joe Madden as the manager. I mean, who knows what that team is going to do this upcoming season. I mean, that's a team that we're all obviously rooting for to win a World Series because they haven't won a World Series in well over 100 years. I believe it was 1906 or something like that. I think it was somewhere in that neighborhood. I mean, well over 100 years since their last World Series win. But Ernie Banks was definitely one of the most beloved figures in the history of the city of Chicago. And I know Matt Ward got word of it. He heard about it on Twitter. He said, sad day in baseball. I certainly agree with that, Matt Ward. I mean, I know it's a sad day for you and your fellow Chicago Cubs fans. And, Wrigley Field, the marquee that Fletcher mentioned. I'm going to get a photo of that, and I'm going to use that as my snapshot at the end of the show as our screen share, like we always do, as it's customary when we have a major death. I mean, 24 days into the new year, and already we have 2 deaths that are already hitting us close to home. And first it was Stuart Scott, and now Ernie Banks. I mean, goodness. I think this is going to be a major hard times year when it comes to close to home deaths. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's how I feel. But Bullock, Fletch, he pretty much touched on everything. He touched on all the numbers, all the stats, and it's a who's who when it comes to that. I mean, 14-time All-Star, all these great years he had with the Chicago Cubs, MVP awards. Let's Play 2. That's how I'll always remember him. And on behalf of all of us here at Strictly Sports, we definitely want to send out our deepest condolences and thoughts and prayers to the family and friends of Ernie Banks, and of course, thoughts, prayers, and condolences to the Chicago Cubs organization, and of course, all the Chicago Cubs fans, including our own Matt Ward. So, rest in peace, Ernie Banks. You'll never be forgotten, and hopefully, one of these years, the Chicago Cubs will win a World Series, dedicated to you. So, let's play 2. Simple as that. So with that said, one more event left to go. NBA Power Rankings now, and then we'll put the bow on this thing. So let me see. I believe Michael Fletcher starts it off. Michael Fletcher, you're number 10 if you have it.
All right. Well, actually, normally I wouldn't do this, but I felt like tonight I gotta do a couple of honorable mentions. 2 honorable mentions for me tonight. One goes to the Phoenix Suns. The other goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. But let's dive in, boys. The first one, number 10 in my power rankings. I am going to piss some people off right now. I hate to do it. The Portland Trail Blazers is my number 10, and here's the reason why I got to do it. Because of the fact that, A, they lost LaMarcus Aldridge for 4 to 6 weeks, but then you lose to the Boston Celtics on the road at home? No, you gotta get punished for this. And I hate to do it, even though they got an amazing record. They're one of the top teams in the Western Conference. But I hate to do it, but I had to drop the hammer on them for that. So my number 10, much to the chagrin of a lot of people, Portland Trailblazers is my number 10. Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah, I disagree with that. Because of their previous body of work and everything else and the record, I mean, they're still going to be one of the top teams, to be honest with you. But yeah, I disagree with that. I do agree about the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, initially I had them in, but after they lost tonight to the Atlanta Hawks, I had to knock them down, even though they're playing some really good ball. So they're now at honorable mention level. So with that said, my number 10. I got to go with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland Cavaliers are my number 10 in the power rankings. I mean, 5-game winning streak, 5-5 in their last 10. They put a beat down on the Charlotte Hornets tonight. They won 129-90 against the Charlotte Hornets tonight. Like I said, 5-game winning streak, playing their best ball at the right time. I mean, really loving their body of work. Let's dive in. Of course, over the last couple of weeks, I mean, let's see, what have they done? I mean, 5-game winning streak. I mean, that's the big thing, and they've beaten in these 5 games. They've beaten. Get this lineup: the Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Chicago Bulls, the Utah Jazz, and now the Charlotte Hornets. So their last loss was on January 13th, a loss to the Phoenix Suns, who I have in my power rankings. I disagree with you again there, Fletch. And a team that also had gotten beaten down by the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets, earlier in this year, and even lost to the Sixers at the start of this year, for God's sakes. I mean, terrible, but playing their best ball at the right time. They go up against the Oklahoma City Thunder on Sunday, and then they go to Detroit, take on the Pistons Tuesday, and then Wednesday they host the Portland Trail Blazers. Next Friday they host the Sacramento Kings, and then they go against the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota. And then the night after the Super Bowl, they go up against Philadelphia. Then they host the Clippers on February 5th, TNT game. And then our next rankings in a couple of weeks, they go up against the Indiana Pacers. So there you go. So, of course, LeBron making the All-Star team. What else is new there? So with that said, number 10 in my power rankings, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. So with that said, Michael Bullock, you're number 10. Who do you agree with? Do you agree with me, or do you agree with Fletcher?
All right, well, my number 10, I gotta go with Anthony. I gotta go with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, before their win tonight, I mean, I would have had them as an honorable mention, but after that impressive win, I mean, especially with what they did tonight, I mean, they routed the New Orleans Hornets 129-90 after and here's the thing, they scored 75 points in the first half. 75. I can't remember a team that actually scored that many points in a first half. I mean, that's impressive. And excuse me. Yeah. So, like I said, now they've now won 5 in a row. I mean, before then they were on a 1-9 stretch, but now it seems like they're starting to get their groove back. So yeah, so really got nothing else to say except Cleveland Cavaliers are my number 10. So with that being said, Florio, let's get on to number 9.
And I will take the number 9 spot. This is actually where I have the Phoenix Suns. I disagree with Fletcher. I think Phoenix, the body of work is good enough to be there. Yeah, they lost to the Houston Rockets tonight, but they're still 7-3 in their last 10 games and playing some good ball as of late. Victories, recent victories, of course, over the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Lakers, and the Blazers. And then, of course, they were on a major winning streak. They were on a 4-game winning streak before the loss, and they only lost by 2 to the Houston Rockets tonight, 113-111. But the body of work has been there, and that's why I had to put them in there. I know Fletcher doesn't quite have them there. I know he wants to see a little more. I understand, but I think they're good enough to be there. Sunday, they host the LA Clippers. Wednesday, they host the Washington. Oh, my goodness, fellas. I mean, just looking at their next few games here, I mean, they got a murderer's row schedule here. I mean, listen to this. Listen to this. Every one of these games, listen here. Until our next rankings in 2 weeks. Sunday, at home, Los Angeles Clippers. Wednesday, at home, Washington Wizards. Next Friday night on ESPN, 10:30, they host the Chicago Bulls. January 31st, next Saturday, they go to Golden State, take on the Warriors. Good luck. Monday, February 2nd, they host the Memphis Grizzlies. Thursday, February 5th, they go to Portland, take on the Trail Blazers. And then the final game, of course, February the 6th, which is our next power rankings in 2 weeks. They host the Utah Jazz, which is really the only real easy game they have left. But other than that, all those games are murderer's row games. I don't know how they're going to figure out how they're going to find a way to win those games, to be honest with you, because you got all those great teams in there. So, but the point is, they're playing some good ball right now. So, with all due respect, Fletch, I disagree with you on this one. I think they deserve to be in the rankings. So, with that said, number 9, Phoenix Suns. Michael Bullock, you're number 9.
Yes, once again, I agree with you, Florio. The Phoenix Suns are my number 9, so Yeah, you pretty much touched on everything. So with that being said, I'm just gonna give it to Fletch for his number 9.
Slight, yeah, like you said, it's a slight disagreement. I know it is what it is. But my number 9 was actually the Cleveland Cavaliers. I just bumped them up one spot. They were at my number 10, but after the beatdown that they did tonight, I bump them up to number 9. So with that said, fellas, let's move on to number 8.
Michael Bullock, do you have your number 8, or do you need one of us?
I'm not ready. So just give it to Fletch.
All right,
What's your number 8?
my number 8. You know what? I kind of punished this team tonight, even though they did lose a heartbreaker to Chicago. They were actually a little higher until the loss tonight, but I did it and I gave it to the Dallas Mavericks. My Dallas Mavericks is number 8. Like I said, it was a tough game, a very good game against the Chicago Bulls. They did lose tonight. Thus, Chicago went up in my rankings on that as well. So, with that said, my number 8 is the Dallas Mavericks. Anthony, is yours.
Another disagreement, Fletch. I mean, I got Dallas a little bit higher, to be honest with you, because I thought their body of work was great. My number 8, to be honest with you, this is. Let me see. What do I have? What do I have here? I know this might rub some people the wrong way, but I also go based on the records and everything else. And my number 8, this is where I got to go with the San Antonio. Your reigning defending NBA champions, the San Antonio Spurs. I have not been impressed with their body of work as of late. I mean, 28-17, they're fourth in their own division. I mean, I know they're only 3.5 games out, but still, I mean, they got out to a great start. They did, but then they went into a major rough stretch. I mean, 1-game winning streak, 7-3 in their last 10, 28-17 overall record. But to me, fourth in your own division, I mean, not good. Not good for my standards. Over the last couple of weeks, they beat Phoenix, they beat Minnesota, they lost to Washington, they beat Charlotte, beat Portland, and Utah, and then Denver. But they lost to the Chicago Bulls last night, decisive beatdown, 104-81, and then tonight they defeated the Los Angeles Lakers 99-85. But then again, what else is new? The Lakers suck. Sunday night they host Milwaukee. Wednesday they go against Charlotte. Michael Bullock, you meant to say Charlotte Hornets, not New Orleans Hornets. It's the New Orleans Pelicans. And next Saturday night they host the LA Clippers. February 4 they host the Orlando Magic. And then next Friday night, 2 weeks from Friday, on ESPN at 9:30, a 2014 NBA Finals rematch against the Miami Heat. Oh wow, Flex doesn't even have San Antonio in the power rankings. Wow, my goodness. But to me, the body of work is still there. I just want to see a little bit more out of them. So my number 8, your NBA champion, San Antonio Spurs. Michael Bullock, are you ready for your number 8 now?
Yeah. My number 8. I actually gotta go with. I'm gonna go with the Dallas Mavericks on this. I got the Spurs just a smidget higher. Not that much, but yeah. So he pretty much touched on it. So he pretty much touched on everything. So I really got nothing else to say except let's get to number 7.
And I'm going to have to start it off since we had to do some adjusting there because of Michael Bullock on the last one. So my number 7, this is where I have the Toronto Raptors. Toronto Raptors are my number 7 in the rankings here. 28-15 record, a win tonight. They're 4-6 in their last 10. But the point is, they're a first place team. They far and away lead the Atlantic Division. We already know they're going to win it. Let's not kid ourselves. They're already 10 games up on Brooklyn. Over the last couple of weeks, they did lose to Charlotte, but then they rebounded with wins against. They went against Boston, then they lose to the Detroit Pistons on the January 12th. Major bad loss for them. But then they beat up on Philly, and then they lose to Atlanta, lose to New Orleans. They won against Milwaukee. They lose at Memphis, but they got the win tonight in Philadelphia. Sunday night they host the Detroit Pistons, and then Tuesday they go to Indiana. Wednesday, they host Sacramento. Next Friday, they go to Brooklyn, take on the Nets. Saturday, they go to Washington, take on the Wizards. And then Milwaukee comes in on Monday, February 2nd. Wednesday, they get Brooklyn at home. And then on the next Power Rankings, 2 weeks, they host the LA Clippers. Possible finals preview, perhaps. You never know. And that's going to be the first game of that ESPN doubleheader, followed by that finals rematch with Miami and San Antonio. So very compelling viewing, to say the very least. So with that said, number 7, Toronto Raptors. Michael Bullock, you're number 7.
Yeah, my number 7. This is actually where I have the San Antonio Spurs. So yeah, you pretty much touched on everything, Florio. So really got nothing else to say except let's get to Fletch's number 7.
Okay, I'm a little bit lost for words right now. How on earth do you have the Toronto Raptors that low, Anthony Player? I'm absolutely stunned with you right now. And then on top of that, Michael Bullock, I totally disagree. I don't even have the Spurs in my rankings. Like I said, my number 7, and I know I'm going to anger a few people in the house, but I got the LA Clippers at my number 7. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much details. We're just going to move on. So, Anthony, it's yours.
All right, number 6. Michael Bullock, you have a number 6, or do you need more?
My number 6. This is where I have the LA Clippers in here. So so really got nothing else to say. Let's just move on to Fletch.
My number 6 was one team that was looking like they were on the outside looking in, but now after a couple of bad games that they had recently, but after 2 straight wins, including the win tonight, they just missed out on the top 5. My number 6 is the Chicago Bulls. Anthony, I give it to you.
Well, for the first time tonight, Michael Fletcher, we actually agree. I too have the Chicago Bulls at number 6 in the power rankings. I mean, 29-16 record. They lead the Central Division by 4.5 over Cleveland. 2-game winning streak, even though they are 4-6 in their last 10. I mean, 2 very impressive wins against your defending champion Spurs, and of course the big win in Dallas tonight. Over the last couple of weeks, of course, they got beat down by Washington, but got a victory over Milwaukee, and then an embarrassing loss to Orlando, and another tough loss to Washington. But they bounced back by beating the Celtics a week ago, and then losing to Atlanta, losing to Cleveland. But it's because they beat up on the Spurs, 104-81, and then the win tonight against Dallas. Sunday, they host the Miami Heat at 1 o'clock on ABC. Tuesday, they go to Golden State against the Warriors. Next Thursday, they go to LA to take on the Lakers. And then they go to Phoenix against the Suns. Then they go to Houston against the Rockets. And then that's their final game before our next rankings in 2 weeks. So, of course, a lot has been going on. Derrick Rose had a Noggin Diva moment, but rightfully so. It was a necessary one, because they were playing some bad ball before this 2-game winning streak. Of course, Joakim Noah has been battling injury, obviously, and yes, but definitely, but they're still a first-place team. I'm loving the body of work. So with that said, number 6, Chicago Bulls. So with that said, we move on to the top 5. Michael Fletcher, you're number 5.
Well, my number 5, this is where I had the Toronto Raptors to start it. Anthony made every compelling argument about it, so there's really nothing more for me to say. So, Anthony, I give it to you. You're number 5.
All right. My number 5 in the power rankings, of course, records play a part in this as well. And I had to make a little bit of an adjustment here. Well, I have a tie at number 5. One of those teams is the Washington Wizards, I'll be honest with you. 1-game losing streak, 7-3 in their last 10, though. And then the other one, originally I had this team in the top 3, but after the loss tonight, I got to drop them. Got to go with the Dallas Mavericks. Michael Fletcher made a great point. I mean, you look at Dallas's body of work, 30-14 record. I mean, they're neck and neck with the Memphis Grizzlies in that Southwest Division. And then from there, I mean, looking at the body of work, I mean, recently losing to Detroit and the Clippers, winning against Sacramento, losing to Denver, beating Denver again at home and home. They beat Memphis and then beat up on Minnesota, but they lost to the Bulls tonight. They go against New Orleans Sunday night. Tuesday they host Memphis again. Then they go to Houston Wednesday. Then they go to Miami next Friday night. Then they go to Orlando. Then they host Minnesota. They go to Golden State after that, and then they go to Sacramento, and then that's their final game before the All-Star break. So Dallas Mavericks, and then of course it's the Washington Wizards. I mean, second place in the Southeast Division, 29-14 record, 6.5 games behind the Atlanta Hawks. I think we all know where the Atlanta Hawks are going to be when we get to them, obviously. Let's see here. Beat up on Chicago. Then they got beat down by Atlanta. Beat San Antonio. Beat Chicago. Got beat down by Brooklyn. And then they got revenge on Brooklyn. Then a beat down of Philadelphia on Monday. And then a tough loss to OKC on Wednesday night in overtime. Tomorrow night they go up against Portland. Then they go to Denver Sunday. And then Tuesday they go to LA against the Lakers. Then they go to Phoenix against the Suns. Host Toronto on the 31st. And then Monday the 2nd they host Charlotte. Then they go to Atlanta on the 4th. Go to Charlotte on the 5th. And then that's their last game before the All-Star break. But definitely the body of work's been there. So a tie at number 5. Washington Wizards, and originally in my top 3, but now down to my top 5, Dallas Mavericks. So with that said, Bullock, number 5 for you?
Yeah, tied at number 5 for me. One of them is the Chicago Bulls, and the other is the Washington the Washington Wizards. Yeah, so really got nothing else to say except let's move on to number 4.
All right, and let's see. I believe I lead off on number 4. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, because we had to do the adjustment. All right. My number 4. I know this is obviously going to rub some people the wrong way, especially Fletch, but I know he didn't have this team where they in this area, but frankly, I think this team, based on the overall body of work, since this is our inaugural rankings, we talked about this with the NHL. Of course, you got to think about their overall work and scheme and whatnot. So, my number 4, this is actually where I have the Portland Trailblazers. This is actually where I have them at number 4. I mean, I know they've lost 2 in a row. I know they're 5-5 in their last 10, but they're still a first place team. They're 31-13. They lead the Northwest Division by 8.5 games over the Oklahoma City Thunder. That deserves top 5 recognition as far as I'm concerned. Victories over Orlando, the Lakers, lost to the Clippers, lost to San Antonio, then they lose to Memphis. They beat Sacramento, then a tough loss to Phoenix, and then, of course, that bad loss to the Celtics. Only by 1 point. It wasn't like it was a blowout or anything. They host Washington Saturday night. Tomorrow night, then they go to Brooklyn. Monday, Wednesday, they go to Cleveland. Atlanta, Friday. Oh, my goodness, murderer's row schedule. And then they go to Milwaukee after that, Saturday the 31st. Tuesday the 3rd, they host Utah. And then Thursday, February 5th, a doubleheader game on TNT when they host the Phoenix Suns. So definitely some tough games coming up for them. So let me just check these rankings to be absolutely sure. Yep, this is correct. Portland Trailblazers number 4. Michael Bullock, you're number 4.
I got the Portland Trailblazers as my number 4 as well, so really nothing else to say except Fletcher, you're number 4. Fletch.
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute my mic. No, I had the Washington Wizards at my number 4. I had them a little more higher, but I did a little adjusting just moments ago. So Washington's at my number 4. So guys, let's move on.
All right, we're in the top 3 now. Michael Bullock, your number 3 if you have it.
I'm not ready with my number 3. Can you?
My number 3. Pretty simple, guys. Memphis Grizzlies. There's no argument here. I don't believe at all. I think 3-2-1 sounds like we I kind of think it's a given here, but we'll wait and see what happens. But no, my number three, I gotta say it, is Memphis. Anthony, it's yours.
Tie at number three. This is my last one. Um, one of them, yes, Michael Fletcher, you are correct. It is the Memphis Grizzlies. And my other number three, this is where I had the Los Angeles Clippers, based on the body of work. Of course, Memphis 30-12, lead the Houston Rockets by basically percentage points in that Southwest Division. They both have 30 wins, but Memphis has 12 losses. Houston has 14 losses. Um, Actually, I made a botchamania here. Houston Rockets are tied at number 4 with the Portland Trailblazers. Um, I had Houston in there. I just forgot to mention them. It's obviously been a long night, so forgive me for that. Um, very quickly about Houston. Wins against Cleveland and New York and Utah and Brooklyn. A bad loss to Orlando. That's why they got knocked down. And then Oklahoma City, they won that. Then they got beat down by Golden State. Then they beat up on Indiana. Then they got beat down by Golden State again. Then they got the win against Phoenix tonight. Lakers on Sunday night, they go to LA. They host Dallas Wednesday. They go to Boston, pick on the Celtics next Friday. Then they go to Detroit against the Pistons next Saturday. Wednesday the 4th, they host Chicago. Big game on ESPN. And then Friday, they host Milwaukee. So looks like a solid stretch for Houston. So they were co-number 4s with Portland. But Memphis and the Clippers, number 3, I think I just went down Memphis's body of work just a moment ago. Check on that. 1-game winning streak for Memphis, 6-4 in their last 10. Like I said, 30-12 record. I mean, they lead their division. I mean, definitely a magical year for them. They're doing some great things this year. Memphis lost to New Orleans, beat Phoenix in double overtime in a 5-star game. Then they beat up on Brooklyn, Orlando, won over them, beat Portland. They lost to Dallas on Monday night. Then they beat up on. Then they got a win over Toronto. They host Philadelphia tonight. Then they host Orlando Monday, and then Tuesday they go to Dallas. Big game there. Then they host Denver on Thursday the 29th. Then they host Oklahoma City next Saturday. Monday the 2nd they go to Phoenix. Wednesday the 4th they go to Utah, and then Friday the 6th they go to Minnesota. So it looks like somewhat of a favorable stretch for Memphis coming up. So Memphis is my first number 3, and then my other number 3 is the LA Clippers. I mean, loving the body of work here. 3-game winning streak, 7-3 in their last 10, 29-14 record. I mean, I know the 3 teams they've beaten, they've won against. I mean, not the best, but still, it's the body of work, it's the record, it's the last 10. Remember that. That's our highest criteria when it comes to this power ranking stuff. They beat up on Dallas, lost to Miami, beat Portland, lost to Cleveland, beat Sacramento, and then they beat the Celtics, and then they beat up on Brooklyn last night. They go to Phoenix against the Suns on Sunday night, big game there. Then they host Denver Monday night. They go to Utah Wednesday, go to New Orleans next Friday, go to San Antonio next Saturday, ESPN game right there, special Saturday game on ESPN, pretty cool there. They go to Brooklyn Monday the 2nd, go to Cleveland on February 5, TNT game right there, and then Toronto in 2 weeks on ESPN. Huge. And Blake Griffin making the All-Star team, what else is new? So, co-number 3s, Memphis Grizzlies, Los Angeles Clippers. On to the top 2, I believe I have to lead this off now since Fletcher let it off. Number 2, Golden State Warriors. It's the Golden State Warriors. They're at number 2. I mean, you would think with the body of work they put together, they would be number 1, but there's a certain team in the Peach State that's just playing absolutely ridiculously out of their minds right now. But Golden State Warriors, 35-6 record, lead the Pacific Division by 7 games, have the best record in the Western Conference, 4-game winning streak, 9-1 in their last 10 games. Steve Kerr, what can you say about Steve Kerr? I mean, his first duty as an NBA head coach. Oh, if he's not the coach of the year this year, I mean, I like to know who is. But then again, the guy in the Peach State obviously would probably give him a run for his money. We'll get to him in a moment. They beat up on Cleveland. They beat up on Utah. They beaten up on Miami. Yes, they had a bump in the road against Oklahoma City last week. And then beat down of Houston, beat down of Denver, beat down of Houston, beat down of Sacramento, 126 to 101. Klay Thompson. Remember this name, folks. Klay Thompson made NBA history tonight. He set a record for the most points scored by an individual in one quarter alone. You know what he did tonight, fellas? Klay Thompson, and I believe it was in the third quarter of this game tonight, put up, and I'm not kidding you, all alone by himself, 37 points. That's right, I said it. Klay Thompson, 37 points in one quarter alone. Finished the night with 52. A career night for Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors against the Sacramento Kings. And it gets easier. Sunday night, they host the Celtics. That's going to be an easy win. Sorry, Michael Bullock, but you know it's coming. And then Fletch, me and you, our Bulls, we're going to be the next victims Tuesday night. You know they're going to beat us down. And then next Friday they go against Utah. Al Braderson, welcome to the burial club. Your team's going to get buried in your own house. They're going to run you boys out of the Delta Center next Friday night. Then they host Phoenix on Saturday. Tuesday the 3rd they go to Sacramento. Wednesday the 4th they host Dallas. And then, fellas, 2 weeks from tonight, NBA Finals preview. Golden State Warriors at the Atlanta Hawks. What else is there to say? Number 2, Golden State Warriors. Michael Bullock, you're number 2.
Well, first off, my number 3, I didn't get a chance to give it, was the Memphis Grizzlies. And my number 2, I do agree, it is the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, there's really nothing else to say except, Fletcher, you're number 2.
Golden State's number 2, no doubt about it. Gentlemen, let's go to number 1.
Michael Bullock, I wonder who could that number 1 team be? I mean, I'm stumped on this one, man. Who you got? I'm kidding. Who you got?
Oh, I'm really stumped on this one as well, Florio. Who I'm kidding? Number 1, the hottest team in the NBA. What else is there to say? The Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks, number 1. I mean, like I said, one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now, and now, I mean, what can you say? 15 straight wins now after a 103-93 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder, and their 29th win in their last 31 games. I mean, wow. I mean, this team has just been. I mean, they've been playing like. I mean, they are the best team in the NBA. I mean, what can you say about them? I mean, yeah, and yeah, I mean, of course, led by Paul Millsap and Jeff Teague and Al Horford and Kyle Korver, and I mean, yeah, I mean, all I can say is this team. They continue to be on a roll, and like I said, next up, I mean, of course, they got the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, that's definitely going to be an easy win right there. Of course, it'll be their 4th game in a 7-game homestand, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win the rest of that homestand. So yeah, so really got nothing else to say except Atlanta Hawks, my number 1. So with that being said, Fletcher, your number 1.
Yes, no doubt about it. Total agreement. Number 1, Atlanta Hawks. The best team in the NBA, best team in the East. Everybody says that, the Eastern Conference has been a down year, and I agree with it for the most part, but there's at least 4 or 5 teams right now that's looking really good. Chicago looks like they've gotten themselves they got their legs underneath them again. Washington has been a threat. Toronto's been there all season long. But the biggest surprise and the team that I think none of us thought was going to be this good was the Atlanta Hawks, and they've proven a lot of skeptics wrong. And the sky's the limit for this young team. How good can they be? We'll wait and see. Can they keep it up in the second half of the year? And that remains to be seen as well. But they definitely deserve it. Undisputed number one of the power rankings. The Atlanta Hawks. Anthony, it's yours.
Winners of 15 straight. Needless to say, 10-0 in their last 10. 15-game winning streak, 36-8 overall record. It is indeed the Atlanta Hawks, led by their head coach, Mike Oberholzer, who's going to be the head coach of the Eastern Conference All-Stars, like I mentioned earlier, to counteract Steve Kerr in the Western Conference. My goodness, I mean, you want to know when the last time they lost a game, fellas, was? It was the day after Christmas, December 26th. That's the last time they lost a game. And on that night, they got beat down by 30 against the Milwaukee Bucks of all teams. But since then, they've beaten, well, get this lineup. The Milwaukee Bucks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Utah Jazz, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Memphis Grizzlies, Detroit Pistons, Washington Wizards, Philadelphia 76ers, Boston Celtics, Toronto Raptors, Chicago Bulls, Detroit Pistons, Indiana Pacers, and now they can add Oklahoma City Thunder to that list. My goodness gracious. Minnesota Sunday night, yep, they'll win that. Brooklyn, Wednesday night at home, feed them more. Next Friday, Portland, no LaMarcus Aldridge, yeah, they'll get that win. Philly, next Saturday, ciao, please. Monday the 2nd at New Orleans, yeah, I think they'll win that. Their next major threat, fellas, probably won't be until Wednesday, February the 4th, when they host the Washington Wizards. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And then, of course, the big showdown, 2 weeks from tonight, the Golden State Warriors come into the Phillips Arena for perhaps an NBA Finals preview. With the way they're playing, I wouldn't be surprised if we see these two in the NBA Finals. What a finals this would be. You want to talk about a fresh matchup? I would love to see these two in the finals. So with that said, number one, with a bullet, it is the Atlanta Hawks. So with that said, that's the end of this show for tonight. We thank you all so very much for tuning in. Of course, we got shout-outs coming up, and I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to have Michael Bullock lead off on the shout-outs, and then throw it up to Fletch, and then throw it to me so I can end it and set the table for the future content. So, Michael Bullock, real quick, your shout-outs here.
Yeah, of course. We want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight for another edition of Strictly Sports. Long night indeed. So, shout-outs, of course, to our great fans out there who support our shows, whether it's this or the Wrestling Forum. It really doesn't matter. We really appreciate it, and we thank you all so very much. And yeah, of course, shout-outs to our super fans, Dee Woodson, Kevin Woodson, Matt Ward, Jason Hicksonbaugh. Shout-outs to our friends from our high school days, of course, Al Britterson, Jimmy Alden, Rob Parsons, Eric Carrier, Tom Souza, and of course, to the First Lady of Strictly Sports, Kaisa Butler, and of course, the First Lady of the Wrestling Forum, Megan Silva, to Derek Ferreira, who couldn't be with us with of course, his hard times with his internet connections prevented him from joining us. So, yeah, and of course, shout-outs, of course, to our personalities, of course, Ken Bell from ABC6, of course, Frank Arpano, Joe Chiata, Adam Bagney from NBC10, Yanni Karakis, Mark Dondero, Patrick Lowe from Channel 12, of course. All of them will be in Arizona for Super Bowl 49 to cover the New England Patriots. So, yeah, we want to wish all of them the best in their trip to Arizona. Yeah, and of course, shout out also goes to Jenny Dell, formerly of Nesson, and of course now of CBS. Same goes for Jamie Iredall. Shout outs to our personalities, of course, from ESPN. Of course, Robert Flores and Jonathan Coachman and Todd Grisham. And of course, the ladies from ESPN, of course, the ones I like, Sarah Walsh, Lindsay Zarniak, Jade McCarthy, Jamie Sire, Lisa Kearney. Of course, from Fox Sports 1, Aaron Andrews, Carissa Thompson, Jill Arrington, Julie Stewart Binks, and of course the people from Crowd Goes Wild. Used to enjoy watching that show for a little bit, and of course, our friends from the Road Show. Of course, the former co-host Mary Larson and Megan Mooney, and of course the three current people on there: Will Gilbert, Michaela Johnson, and Brendan Kirby, and of course the last two, of course, to Stata Sorrell and of course Lindsay McCormick. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for me. So until later tonight when we do our Royal Rumble preview, this is the Phenom and the Vice President of the Rhode Island chapter of the Yes Movement, Mike Bullock, saying thank you all so very much for listening to us. And of course, you know the routine. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune 4 style. Have a great rest of the night, everybody. And until later on tonight for our Royal Rumble preview. Bye for now, my friends. So that being said, Florio, take us home and set up the future content.
Yeah, Michael Fletcher obviously left us work commitments, so yeah. Of course, special shout out to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who continue to make, Strictly Sports and the Wrestling Forum as ridiculously over as they are. We appreciate it as always. Best fans in the world, enough said there. Of course, our super fans, Dee Dee Woodson, Kevin Woodson, and the entire Woodson family, the first family of our show. Everyone knows that. Of course, along with, let me see here. Of course, Matt Ward, Jason Nixonbaugh, Daniel Luttrell from the UK. Of course, our other crew, Derek Ferrera, who couldn't be with us tonight, obviously. But from what I heard, I think his connection got up and running at the last possible moment. So hopefully he'll be ready to go for our Royal Rumble show. We'll get into that in just a moment. Of course, the rest of our shout-outs, of course, Tommy Souza, Eric Carrier, Jimmy Alden, Alvarez and Rob Parsons. And then, Bullet pretty much touched on all of our personalities, from, Ken Bell and all those other guys. So, I pretty much share in Michael Bullock's sentiments when it comes to those folks. And, of course, you did forget one. You forgot one there, Michael Bullock. Emily Austin from the Boston Celtics. I love her body of work.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about her.
Yeah. And, of course, another personal favorite of mine, Julie Alexandria from OKTV. Definitely want to give her a shout-out as well. And, and, of course, our friends from the Road Show, can't forget about them, Megan Mooney, Mary Larson, and all them. Of course, Michaela Johnson, Brendan Kirby, and Will Gilbert. Another great week of Road Show action. A lot of fun, to say the very least. And, the ESPN personalities, Cassidy Hubbard. I would have thrown Cassidy Hubbard in there too, Bullock. I love her body of work. With the NBA Tonight, obviously, and SportsCenter whenever she's on that. But I agree with you I pretty much agree with all of you I pretty much agree with you, Michael Bullock, on all of the other personalities, So, they are who they are. Jenny Dell and everybody else. So, and then of course, Stata Sorrell and Lindsay McCormick rounded it out. And of course, there you see it on my screen share. As is customary, whenever we have a major death, I did it with Stuart Scott last week, and I got it right here. So the Ernie Banks, of course, with tonight. So, and of course, before we leave you, we definitely want to send our deepest thoughts, condolences, and prayers to the family and friends of Mr. Cub Ernie Banks. He will be missed. 83 years old, died tonight. So, of course, that's going to do it for this. Of course, tomorrow night at 10:30, it is our Royal Rumble preview edition of the Wrestling Forum. Myself, Michael Bullock, hopefully Michael Fletcher will be there. Hopefully we'll have Derek Ferrera back. I think Derek's up and running again, so hopefully Derek will be with us for that show tomorrow night at 10:30. And then, of course, 11 o'clock Monday night, our Royal Rumble recap show with Michael Fletcher on his channel, Great Span 95. And don't forget, myself and Michael Fletcher, we're going to actually do the commentary for the Royal Rumble match. So you might want to check that out because, we got a lot of views when we did our Team Cena, Team Authority commentary at Survivor Series. So, but check it out. Our Royal Rumble match commentary. Fletch and I will have that. Looking forward to that. And then, of course, Monday night, the Wrestling Forum. So, very busy couple of days here for the Wrestling Forum and Strictly Sports. So, even though it's going to be more Wrestling Forum stuff now, because we got the Rumble coming up, the preview show tomorrow night, and then the recap Sunday night, and then the Forum, recapping the Monday Night Raw and all the fallout after that. So, very busy few days. We can't wait. And then our big Super Bowl preview edition of Strictly Sports next Friday night. My goodness, man. I mean, these next few days. Oh, wow. Enough said. So with that said, it's going to do it for me. So until tomorrow night for our Royal Rumble preview edition of the Wrestling Forum, this is Ridiculously Over Anthony Floyo for the Phenom Michael Bullock, and of course, our Cerebral Viper Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, the Hardcore Pipe, I'm Derek Ferreira. This is Ridiculously Over Anthony Floyo once again saying, you know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune Forest style. Have a great Saturday, and we'll see you later tonight for our Royal Rumble preview show. Hopefully on Derek's channel, SLB 2008-09. If not, I'll have it again. So until then, you've been watching Strictly Sports right here on Latone 25 on YouTube.com. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. And rest in peace, Ernie Banks. We will never forget. Bye for now.